My husband is a renowned scientist. When asked about emotions during the interview, he said, I don't consider myself a qualified partner. Under no circumstances would I prioritize romantic love. I only wish to spend my limited time pursuing boundless science. After the program aired, there was nothing but praise for his fearless pursuit of science, yet I quietly tucked away my medical examination report. I have cancer, terminal stage. Those were the days he went to London to receive the award. They were my last days in this world. 1. The last moment before consciousness faded was the blinding light of the surgical lamp, and when my soul left my body, I could see the entire operating room. When I saw the electrocardiogram beside the hospital bed, the line representing the heart rate had already flattened into a straight line. I suddenly realized, it seems I had already died, too, for some reason. I became a spirit, able to drift around freely, just this morning. I was still in good spirits and managed to exchange a few words with Chang Bai-lu. He had an international research presentation to attend and was flying out at noon today, so I woke up at 7 a.m. to prepare breakfast for him. Despite Chang Bai-lu's seemingly indifferent appearance, he's actually quite particular about food. The toast should be toasted just a little bit more, and the milk should be heated to about 80% warmth. As my son puts it, Mom, you've spoiled Dad's taste buds. I neither confirm nor deny this. After all, having taken meticulous care of him for 20 or 30 years, even the most troublesome things have become habits. 3. Old Chang. I heard that due to some air mass influence, temperatures in the UK will drop suddenly. I brought an extra down vest for you. The chewing gum is in the left pocket of your backpack. You always get air pressure on flights. Chewing one will help. Don't stay up too late at night. Has your heart been bothering you recently? Go to bed earlier. It's a polar continental air mass. My words were abruptly cut off. Raising my head dully, I met his clear eyes. The saying, time never defeats beauty, fits Chang Bai-lu well. His brow bones remain strong, approaching middle age, yet time seems to have left no trace on him, so that chill carried since youth can still pierce straight to the depths of my heart. He was correcting the inaccuracy in my first statement. Britain, due to the influence of some air mass, should be polar continental air mass, but I just wanted to show him I care, so I lowered my eyes, straightened his tie for him. Got it, be careful on the road, La Chang. He brushed past me sideways, thinking I had nothing to do this afternoon. Actually, that wasn't the case. He was going to the other side of the Atlantic to attend an academic presentation. I also had a meeting to attend. This is my preoperative meeting. The doctor said the success rate of this surgery is only 20%. 4. The doctor informed me that the stomach cancer wasn't detected in time, and the cancer cells had already spread throughout my body. I sat in the hospital corridor all afternoon. The TV mounted in the corner was playing an episode of Today's Interview, featuring Chang Bai-lu's invited appearance from a few days ago. The man with cold eyes didn't want to waste much time on anything outside of scientific research. Even when asked about his wife, he only gave a brief response. I'm a blockhead. I don't understand love. To me, a wife is more of a responsibility, celebrating anniversaries. That's just formalism. I'd rather spend that time conducting more experiments. Sounds exactly like something Chang Bai-lu would say. He doesn't even celebrate birthdays, let alone anniversaries. When I was young, I would pester him, hoping that one day he would come to me with a bouquet of vibrant roses. Yet I never received a single rose. A mind capable of memorizing countless data stubbornly refuses to remember those 4 digits of my birthday. Eventually, I just sat alone at the table, preparing a bowl of longevity noodles, and called it a day. The Changbai willow is an iron tree that cannot blossom. It took me over 20 years to finally accept this truth. So it's only in recent years that I've gradually come to realize my own mistakes, call it exhaustion or resignation. The funny thing is, he is him, and I am me. The truth that lay plainly before me decades ago, I only understand now. I folded the medical report into a corner and put it in my pocket, only calling my son. 5. Chang Chuan is close to me, because Chang Bai-lu doesn't like children, and his only son knows nothing about scientific research. After listening to my emotionless narration, Chuan's voice choked up a bit. Mom, you and Dad. I didn't tell him. I lowered my eyes, staring at the granite beneath my feet. I don't want to talk to him. He is him, I am me, and besides, what would he do even if he knew I was sick? Would he give up his round-the-clock obsession with scientific research to take care of me? Chuan, Mom doesn't know how much longer she can live. If one day Mom dies, don't even tell your father. I lowered my head to smooth out my clothes. Why bother Chang Bai-lu with something he clearly couldn't care less about? Okay, Chang Chuan responded on the other end of the phone. Mom, to be honest, Dad never deserved it in the first place. He truly didn't deserve someone as good as you. 6. My spirit drifted through the hospital corridor, seeing the doctor walk out of the operating room and shake his head regretfully. Chang Chuan collapsed crying by my hospital bed. He had brought me to the hospital since noon, waiting outside the operating room until evening. But Mom couldn't hold on and failed to open her eyes. He cried so heartbreakingly. And I was anxiously circling around him, yet he couldn't see me. I so wanted to hug him, to comfort him like when he was little and tell him not to cry. Chuan has worked very hard, although he didn't become a scientist as his father expected. His paintings are loved by many people, and he's going to have an exhibition in Italy later this year. I sat beside him, looking up at the stars at night, singing to him just like when I used to comfort him as a child. He can't hear. But I feel like this way, he'll know his mother is by his side. I was suddenly carried away by a gust of wind to a place very, very far away. The sensory experience of the spirit after death is truly marvelous. I could simultaneously perceive what was happening in the hospital after my passing. At the same time, I found myself at the conference venue where Chang Bailu was holding his meeting. His meeting was supposed to last for 7 days. The man in a tailored suit effortlessly became the center of attention in the room, young, handsome, with a resume that could be described as unprecedented and unmatched. To be honest, Chang Bailu has probably been the center of attention since childhood. During university, the number of girls who liked him was as countless as fish in the river. In those days, when traditional values still held some sway, there were girls who openly pursued him right to his dormitory building. Every time he looks at people with that icy, distant gaze, wearing the most ordinary white shirt, textbooks tucked under his arm, looking down at others with restrained aloofness. Sorry, I don't like you. Yet his words were exceptionally merciless. The so-called popularity that many men proudly flaunt was nothing but pure annoyance to him. Back then, he had won national scholarships so frequently it became routine. The teacher would often mention his name in class. At that time, I was one of those students who looked up to him, standing at the very periphery. I only dared to steal a glimpse at the corner of his shirt as he left the cafeteria. Chang Bailu had absolutely no idea that I had been secretly in love with him for 3 or 4 years before our blind date. I would never have guessed that 3 years after graduation, the blind date arranged by my family would turn out to be him. I won't have someone I like. This is what Chang Bailu said to me when we first met. If I had to say what I like, it would be conducting experiments, calculations, basically anything that doesn't involve people. He slightly furrowed his brows, yet even that couldn't diminish his striking handsomeness. He articulated himself concisely and clearly. We're not talking about love, we're just making sure there's an heir. Do you understand? Actually, back then, Chang Bailu made it very clear, it was me who thought I could accept it, me who chose to be with him. I always thought there would be plenty of time, that one day his clear, candid gaze would linger on me. I always thought he would come to like me. Should I call it overestimating myself, basing my day and night efforts on that so-called affection born of familiarity? My spirit drifted to his side, watching him converse solemnly with the scholar across from him. The man was tall in stature, aloof yet elegant. Am I being quite foolish? My hands in my pockets, I looked at him. They say that people with high IQs see ordinary people the way ordinary people see fools. Meanwhile, my remains were loaded into the hearse. The academic conference was bustling with noise and excitement. Old Chang, do you think I'm quite foolish? 7. Chang Bailu took a photo of the London nightscape with his phone and sent it to me. Of course, I could never reply again. Chang Chuan truly never told his father about my death. Even the obituary posted from my WeChat account was blocked from Chang Bailu. This is fine. I bothered him too much when I was alive, and I'm afraid even after death I'd still trouble him by making him change his flight ticket. Besides, I don't think he wanted to see me for any last meeting. The night view in London was quite beautiful, but for some reason, that day he stared at his phone for a long time on the windy balcony. When I leaned over to look, I suddenly realized that in the past, I would always reply to his messages almost instantly. When he used to go abroad for business trips, he would casually send me a few photos, and I'd reply with memes I saved from Chuan, a thumbs up, or 2 thumbs up with awesome written on them. This time, he waited for a long time. But I didn't reply. Teacher Chang, it's drizzling outside again, come back quickly, don't catch a cold. A young woman's voice sounded behind him. It was his student. In academic circles, some things were tacitly understood. The girl moved closer with familiarity, attempting to drape a coat over him, but he pushed her away. 8. Fish and chips. Disgusting. Chong Bai-lu sent me pictures of the restaurant. My remains were pushed into the cremation furnace. It's raining again. Chong Bai-lu sent me the view outside his hotel window. Friends and family attended my funeral ceremony. Tonight's results will be announced. Returning on tomorrow's flight, Chong Bai-lu stood on the podium, surrounded by cameras pointing at him. I managed to somewhat understand with my broken English. His achievement seems to have added another brilliant stroke to the canvas of human progress. He, standing under the spotlight, never fails to shine brilliantly in his field of expertise. I think this is why I've loved him for so many years, but it was me who loved him, not him loving me. In the drizzling rain of April, as the ashes were laid to rest beside a square tombstone, I finally understood this truth. 9. That night after the meeting ended, when Chong Bai-lu called me 3 times without getting through, he changed his flight to the early morning. On the plane, he kept frowning, his face colder than usual. But it makes sense, for so many years I've been at his beck and call. So suddenly being unreachable must feel strange to him. Actually, I used to pick him up at the airport every time he returned to the country, and I would always arrive 1 or 2 hours early, waiting for him at the airport. These are also habits. One simply can't bear to let their beloved suffer, so I always do my utmost to ensure his life is comfortable. But this time, he had to walk alone through the nearly empty airport terminal, then hail an overpriced taxi at 4 or 5 in the morning. When he got home at 6 a.m., he knocked first, but no one answered. He unlocked the door with his fingerprint and pushed it open. The house was empty. Everything remains as it was when he left, the pool spotless, the dining table bare, except my frequently worn slippers are also placed at the Genken entrance. He unbuttons his coat, left unchanged in his hurried departure, pacing through the unlit house, round after round, bedroom, balcony, bathroom. Finally, he pulled out the washing machine door. Finding nothing, he paused and took out his phone to call me. After a long wait, only a busy tone, he took a deep breath and swiped his thumb to another number on the list, Chuanchuan's. The relationship between father and son was actually quite strained even before Chuanchuan came of age. Over the years, Chuanchuan only came home to see me, never intending to acknowledge his father. Chong Bai-lu maintained that attitude too, immersed in academia, essentially saying don't let him raise the child. He was absent during the most crucial stage of his son's growth, so his son has always spoken to him in a harsh tone. What do you want? Where's your mom? Both spoke in aggressive tones, but Chuanchuan paused momentarily, then came a strange laugh, an indescribable feeling, murmuring the words again, where's my mom? My mom left. Left to where? The furrow between Chong Bai-lu's brows deepened as the morning light happened to fall precisely between them. I heard my son's voice on the phone suddenly turn pale with realization. Not about where she went. Mom has passed away, Dad. 10. A long silence stretched across both ends of the phone call. From my angle, I could see Chong Bai-lu's knuckles turning white as she gripped the phone, still making crude jokes like some delinquent at your age. A lecturing tone, didn't take it seriously, apparently. In Chong Bai-lu's perception, something like me dying without even notifying him about the funeral wouldn't occur. Chuanchuan fell silent on the other end of the line, then after a long pause, let out a scoff with a tone of resignation. Dad, I haven't joked with you once since 6th grade. After Chuanchuan hung up, the phone emitted a beeping sound. I found it very strange. Chong Bai-lu seemed frozen in place. Standing there still holding the phone in that position, slowly, he sat down on the sofa at home. While academically rigorous and meticulous, Chong Bai-lu was the complete opposite in his personal life. He was utterly carefree to the extreme, so it's always been me tidying up the house. His study is often piled with manuscripts, and he won't even let me touch them. I've been scolded by him more than once for things like this. Looking back now, perhaps I was never really the right type of person for him. Maybe he needs a female scientist who can discuss the boundless academic universe with him, not some third-rate magazine editor who only knows how to wash sofa covers until they fade and doesn't even know what a polar air mass is. Light slowly seeped into the room. I saw him tracing the lace on the sofa cover, the dust-gathered lace. He kept kneading it over and over. 11. The door at home was opened. Chong Bai-lu suddenly turned his head to look, with such a forceful movement that I feared he might twist his neck. As it turned out, standing outside the door was Chuanchuan, who jiggled the keys in his hand. Dad, good timing. Where did Mom keep the ID card and household register before? We need to go to the police station. Chong Bai-lu stopped rubbing her lace-trimmed knuckles, frozen in place. cancel her household registration. In the cabinet below the TV. I keep some personal documents belonging to both me and Chung Bai-lu. He tends to toss such things around carelessly, including medals from major awards, so I always carefully store them for him. He personally doesn't care about these things, but I always delight in gently running my fingers over them. What's the point? He didn't understand why I was happy about him winning the award, so I just smiled and held his arm. Because you're my husband, of course I'm happy when you win an award. When I was younger, I still had moments where I would cling to him and act spoiled. Later, as time passed, I'd become much more restrained. Chung Bai-lu was clutching our marriage certificates, refusing to let go. The photo on the marriage certificate didn't turn out well either. After all, there wasn't even a hint of a smile on his lips, while I was grinning as if it were a grand wedding meant for me alone. Chuan found my ID card and turned to see Chung Bai-lu holding those two crimson booklets, staring blankly at nothing in particular. Dad, don't worry, now that Mom's gone, your marital relationship with her is automatically dissolved. You're no longer her husband, never will be again. Happy now, you're free to pursue romantic relationships with those young female students you mentor. This was clearly spoken with a sarcastic, confrontational tone. In the past, Chung Bai-lu would have lost his temper upon hearing his son speak like this, but this time, he remained silent for a long while, or rather, he had been absent-minded for quite some time. He just slowly got up and then took the trench coat hanging on the sofa. I'll go with you. 12. Along the way, neither of them said a word. To be honest, I've actually wondered what expression Chung Bai-lu would have after my death. He'd probably just say, "Oh, or got it." Then immediately return to his grand research dedicated to humanity. He doesn't love me, this fact, I know, so my departure was likely just an interlude to him, neither big nor small, like a pebble tossed into a lake. He actually personally handled canceling my household registration. I don't know whether to thank him for sentimentality or not. Witnessing the cancellation of my own household registration was quite a unique experience. Chuan submitted some documents, while Chung Bai-lu sat waiting on a chair in the nearby lobby. Even so, he stood out remarkably, his emerald green overcoat like a solitary pine tree in the world, making him the one I could always spot in a crowd. I couldn't tell what he was thinking. Those dark eyes quietly reflected the bustling crowd passing by. Just like that, Chuan filled out my household registration cancellation form, and the staff confirmed it from the other side of the window. When it was handed back, there was already a new stamp on the household register, cancelled. Chung Bai-lu just stared at those two words, for a long, long time, so long that Chuan snatched it back from his father's hands. I'll come get my mother's belongings in a few days. Who told you to take them? Chung Bai-lu, who hadn't spoken for a long time, sounded much hoarser. I'm her son, can't I take it? I'm still her husband. You're full of shit. After Chuan said this, both of them stopped. In truth, Chung Bai-lu was still standing there, but I felt as if all his strength had been drained away in an instant. He closed his eyes briefly, then said slowly, "Your mother never told me she was ill." "Yeah," Chuan nodded. "What's the damn use of telling you?" Chuan snatched away the household register stamped with cancelled, leaving Chung Bai-lu standing alone at the police station entrance. Truth is, I always knew. Chung Bai-lu was just passing through. Trying to melt someone like him was impossible. He is always rational, always aloof. Under the scorching sun, he turned and walked down the street filled with cicada songs. 13. I thought Chung Bai-lu would attend to his unfinished research topics after returning, yet he just stood there blankly from the moment he entered the foyer, just spacing out. For example, standing in front of that handmade model I placed in the entryway for over 30 minutes. This model was brought back from Melbourne, but I could never get the last piece to fit correctly. He held me in his arms and called me silly, then effortlessly assembled it in no time, like sitting on the sofa, staring at the aloe vera we raised together, until the sun had set. The aloe vera was a folk remedy I got from the traditional Chinese medicine clinic near our door. Back when my skin was always acting up, I'd often stare at him enviously, poking him and asking why his skin could be so flawless. Most of the time, he'd dodge me with a look of disdain. Sometimes, he would take my finger and give it a gentle bite. When night fell, he wouldn't turn on the lights. Sitting alone in the dim living room, I think, in my absence, he might still feel somewhat unaccustomed. After all, I've taken care of him for so many years, and after all, Lin Wanjun will always leave a light on for Chung Bai-lu to come home to. At 1 in the morning, he finally made his move. After a cold shower, he burrowed under the blankets, the night sky hanging high above. Chong Bailio's routine was actually extremely regular. Staying up past midnight was rare for him, yet he still seemed unable to sleep. He abruptly sat up in bed. The moon hangs high. He got out of bed and walked to the balcony. The small cucumber and pepper plants I bargained for with the market vendor hadn't been watered for days, looking wilted. He squatted down and sprinkled some water on them with the nearby watering can. As he watered, his hand trembled slightly. Only a few lights remained in the residential area at night. Suddenly, a dog started barking, its cries merging into a desolate loneliness. 14. I couldn't go anywhere these days. I could only drift around Chong Bailu. Surprisingly, Chong Bailu, who hadn't slept all night, cleaned up the house the next day. The school, the company, and students all called him. But he didn't respond much. Each time, just a faint utterance. I've recently been widowed. Thinking of my 20+ years with Chong Bailu, his behavior after my death is something I can't comprehend. He wouldn't shed a single tear after my death. This I've known all along. He said he wouldn't invest emotions in anything outside of research, and that's exactly it. Honestly, I believe he'd be the first among those close to me to move past the grief of my passing. He probably wouldn't even feel sad that I'm gone. His indifference runs bone deep, almost carrying a cruel divinity, but now it doesn't seem like his normal reaction, like staring at the gift I brought back for him from Morocco all afternoon. The doorbell rang, and he slowly shuffled over to open it. Outside the door stood old Zhao, a good friend from our neighborhood and Chong Bailio's closest companion. Old Chong, just out for a walk. Here. I brought you some pancakes from that shop at the neighborhood entrance. Chong Bailio's gaze shifted somewhat blankly to the pancakes. It must be said, old Zhao truly lived up to being his friend. Chong Bailu hadn't eaten for 2 days and a night. Old Zhao understood. Without me, Chong Bailu wouldn't even know how to cook a meal. The sunset bled across the porch like crimson as Chong Bailu turned slightly to usher him inside. After a long pause, she spoke softly. Even you were invited to her funeral. Those words instantly silenced everyone nearby. Sigh, old Chong, it's all in the past now. Let the dead rest in peace. Old Zhao kept Chong Bailu company for a while at his place. Chong Bailu was never much of a talker, and now he was even more silent, glancing down at his watch. Before he could even speak, Chong Bailu had already said, "You'd better hurry and go." This personality really doesn't leave others any face, fortunately. Old Zhao wasn't the type to take offense. After saying goodbye at the door, just as he was about to leave, old Zhao suddenly leaned out, as if hesitating for a long time before finally making up their mind to speak. The sunset echoed quietly behind him, his gaze surging with sorrow. When old Lin was alive, he often told me he envied me. What did he envy me for? Envious that I can do research and understand those complex theories, she said. If only her mind worked as quickly. Then maybe old Chong would talk to her a bit more. The fading crimson of the sunset reflected in the pupils of the person before her, and Chong Bailu froze in place. Old Chong, to offer one's sincere heart to someone isn't meant for that person, to trample it into pieces. 15. I leaned against the doorframe, watching Chong Bailu still organizing our things. He'd been at it all night, seemingly tireless. When he flipped open a photo album, inside were photos I'd compiled of us together. There were actually very few. Despite having that face that's attracted admirers since childhood, Chong Bailu never liked taking photos. Many times I had to drag him into taking photos with me. There were also times when he had no choice but to be photographed, like the one he's currently rubbing with his fingertips. The cable car ride we took together in Fragrant Hills. Back in those days, there weren't many safety measures. After he explained how the cable car worked, I was terrified and clung tightly to his arm, only to be met with his icy, "I regret explaining this look." I remember now. There's actually a story behind this photo. That was probably the only time I ever fought with him, threatening to divorce him. Chong Bailu had always been busy, especially when he was younger, with virtually no free time to spare. I really pestered him for a long time and did a lot of convincing before he finally agreed to set aside 3 or 4 days to take a trip with me. The date was set, and the tickets were bought. Starting 3 or 4 days before the trip, I was already full of anticipation, but then, just 1 day before departure, he suddenly had a group meeting and couldn't go. No matter what, I was already quite angry, but not to the point of being hysterical. What really broke me was, he went to attend a group meeting, which was also out of town, and went alone with a female student. The female student comes from a well-connected family. While I usually take care of Chung Bai-lu, that girl always dresses up flashily and tries to get close to him. Whenever I came to see Chung Bai-lu, she would seize him to ask professional questions, dragging on for over half an hour each time. As for me, I'd just be left holding that box of takeout that was getting cold, waiting dryly. I asked him if we could cancel the group meeting, but he said it couldn't be done. You go by yourself, he said indifferently to me while tidying up his manuscripts. He said those words in the morning, and by evening the divorce papers were on his desk. He finally looked up at me from that pile of newspaper data. Back then, very few people got divorced, but at that moment I genuinely wanted a divorce. I was utterly broken, emotions inexplicably tangled, perhaps because I was already pregnant with Chuan Chuan. Hormones raging, such a venting act, only my younger self could have done it. But now I actually think it would have been better if we had really divorced back then. That night, Chung Bai-lu packed her luggage and stood outside my room. He was never much of a talker, so even now I don't know how he managed to cancel that unavoidable group meeting. Anyway, the next day he set off on the journey with me, and we took that photo. I wrapped my arm around his, pressing close, yet his handsome face remained expressionless and aloof. After returning, his career hit a rough patch, for which I might bear just a tiny bit of responsibility. It seems like we never really had many happy memories together. It's quite a wonder we even got married and had children. He turned over that photo paper. On the back was a sentence I had written. I'm sorry, Lao Chang. I never know how to make you happy. He suddenly clenched that photo paper tightly, the paper card cut into the flesh, leaving a bloody mark. 16. Chung Bai-lu found the wine we brewed last year in the storage room, with my seal on the lid reading, do not open until Chung's 3rd year, 7th month. By the time I added these words, I already knew I had cancer. I wrote them because I understood he wouldn't remember these things. While tidying up the study, he uncovered the note pressed beneath the glass desktop. A time will come to ride the wind and cleave the waves. I'll set my cloud-white sail and cross the sea which raves. It was something I wrote for him when his project hit a snag and the team was running around in circles. The only support I could offer was preparing 3 meals a day, water at the perfect temperature in the early hours, and these quietly hidden words of encouragement tucked beneath his books. The lotus seed and red bean soup I made still sits quietly in the fridge. He dislikes bitter flavors and refused to eat it unless the lotus hearts were removed. I coaxed him with a smile. All right. I'll peel the lotus seeds for you before making the next batch. Okay, but deep down, I already knew there wouldn't be a next batch for him. Now he sits at the dining table, gently removing the cork I had sealed, and slowly finishes the box of lotus seed and red bean soup with the still good wine. Then 15 minutes later, I went to the bathroom and vomited until the world spun. Well, this thing's been sitting in the fridge for over half a month anyway. Chung Bai-lu doesn't drink much. He once said alcohol only interferes with his thinking, yet he finished that entire bottle. His alcohol tolerance must be terrible. He clung to the bottle so desperately it made me wonder if I'd misremembered the date, as if the liquor had fully fermented. He rushed to the bathroom to vomit again. A loud noise came from the bathroom as he collapsed headfirst into the sink, water gurgling and pouring over his crimson-tipped ears. He slowly raised his head, staring at the figure in the mirror, then suddenly, without warning, threw a punch, smashing the mirror. The great scientist Chung has quite the strength in his hands. The mirror cracked, blood flowing down the fissure. He stared at the distorted reflection, utterly defeated. I rarely got to see him like this, so emotionally explosive. No matter how much I provoked him before, he never showed any reaction, whether it's anger or expressions of love. The irony is that after decades of marriage, it turns out he never properly expressed love to me. The blood on his hands stopped flowing, and he walked out of the bathroom, dragging a chair blankly before coming to the wardrobe in the bedroom. He staggered onto the chair. The top shelf of the wardrobe held our seasonal bedding. My body fears the cold. Even a slight chill is unbearable to me. When I was young, I would act coquettishly towards him, opening my arms for a hug whenever I returned from the cold winter outside. It's cold, hold me. He refused outright. Buy a blanket. Later I bought a blanket, and no longer needed his embrace. Yes, when did I start losing that warmth? I can't remember. That blanket is still hidden in the cupboard, and I wrap myself in it every winter. So this was what he was looking for. He tugged at a corner of it. Then he lost his balance. The entire person tumbled down along with the tightly gripped blanket. It made a loud noise, but he seemed unresponsive. After a long pause, he just tightly clutched my blanket, as if it was the only thing left in his hands. He seemed unable to stand up properly, so he slowly pulled the blanket and curled up in a corner of the sofa. He wrapped himself in the blanket. Perhaps the drunken frenzy should have subsided by now. Having not slept for 3 days and vomited all the food he ate, he closed his eyes briefly. Someone who shouldn't feel cold was now wrapping the blanket so tightly around himself. It was almost covetous. Would he really covet what's mine? I never thought of it that way. He struggled several times, grabbed his phone, and dialed a number. It was old Zhao. Old Chang, let me tell you something. On the other end of the line. Old Zhao seemed to have anticipated this. Old Lin is gone, and that's that. The dead can't come back to life. Don't dwell on it, you, old Zhao. The words were cut off. In the silent night, he stared up at the ceiling that would never light up again, asked the person on the other end of the phone, old Zhao, does she hate me now? After I died, he didn't shed a single tear, but why now again, holding my belongings, crying like this? 17. Chang Bailu and Chuan Chuan got into a fight over the ownership of my belongings. They ended up in the hospital. Several relatives and friends arrived, with Chuan Chuan being held back while shouting at Chang Bailu, what right do you have to keep my mother's things? Have you ever cared for me since I was a child? Have you ever fulfilled your responsibilities as a father? Just because you don't want to be disturbed, just because you're a great scientist, yes, you contribute to humanity, how idealistic you are, how noble, so, I don't matter. Mom doesn't matter, and now she's gone. How dare you take mom's things from me too? Chang Bailu was pinned down by old Zhao, unable to utter a single word in the end. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. In just a few days, he had changed completely, losing weight so rapidly. The summer wind swirled through the hospital corridor as his son shouted angrily behind him, and old Zhao patted his shoulder. All right, you've come this far, old Chang. Who can you blame now? A rather neutral statement. Chang Bailu coughed twice. I never thought, so light enough to be extinguished in the melody of the summer breeze. The corridor of the summer ward stretches endlessly. He surely doesn't know. I'm floating right before him. He clutched his chest tightly, as if unaware why it ached so deeply. I never thought I'd lose her. 18. The suffering one became Chang Bailu, while the one seeking liberation became me. I don't know what people become after death, nor do I know how long I must drift. I can do nothing but watch Chang Bailu day after day, this man who carried such weight in my life for decades. I never want to see him again after his death. Chang Bailu tidied up both the house and himself, shaving the stubble accumulated over days and restyling his hair. Time had always favored him so. The light streaming into the bathroom illuminated his profile. Even in his disheveled state, he remained effortlessly handsome, exuding a distinct charm. He bought a plane ticket and flew alone to Italy to secretly visit Chuan Chuan's exhibition. This must be the first time Chuan Chuan, now grown up, is seeing his own painting. When Chuan Chuan was very young, he would cry over everything. Whenever he had academic work to do and found it bothersome, he'd just leave Chuan Chuan for me and Grandma to take care of. As Chuan Chuan grew older and started school, he became completely unwilling to engage with him, disappointed that his son hadn't inherited any of his mathematical talent. Despite being a professor himself, he refused to explain even a single problem to Chuan Chuan. So now, standing before this enormous floor-to-ceiling painting, what exactly is going through his mind as he gazes up at it? He stayed alone in the exhibition hall until sunset, then left quietly as if he had never been there. He also visited my grave, where he's always been a man of few words when it comes to me, so he and the photo on my tombstone stared at each other from day to night. When leaving, he reached out to touch my photo but withdrew his hand. The photo was chosen by Chuan Chuan, where I'm forever smiling gently. Back home, he took a shower and changed into the clothes I had insisted on buying him for the new year. He slowly took out the sleeping pills from the bedside drawer. These days, he couldn't sleep at all without sleeping pills, so he asked the doctor to prescribe some. He stared at the box of sleeping pills in his hand for a long time, in the empty and silent room, as if the figure of the person from the past could no longer be found. He threw the sleeping pills into his backpack. Before closing the front door, he suddenly, without warning, gave a deep glance in my direction, then walked away without looking back. 19. Chang Bailu knows of my existence. 3 days later, I suddenly realized this matter, because since 3 days ago, Chang Bailu began writing some words in the notebook. Awan, I don't know if you're by my side, you might be, or you might not, but what I can be certain of is, if that experimental direction wasn't wrong, you'll definitely be able to see these words. What do you mean? I blinked my eyes as Chang Bailu boarded the green train at that moment. This rumbling machine ceaselessly advanced towards the snow country. The destination on the ticket was Russia. Green shadows sway like wind beyond the window. As he put pen to paper, I gradually realized something deeply unsettling. If we say that souls exist after death, which is my current state, then logically speaking, everyone would become a soul after death. But why do I only see myself? Why do I exist? Why am I the only one who exists? What exactly am I, if I became a ghost? Why can't I see other ghosts? Could it be that, am I the only ghost in this world? Once this question arises, I realize how much I took everything before for granted. The fact that I retained consciousness after death is itself an extremely strange phenomenon. I suddenly raised my head and looked at the man meticulously writing characters in his notebook. It's no coincidence. Nothing is by chance. The fact that I retained consciousness after death is absolutely no supernatural tale. It's because of Chong Bai-lu. The person who touches the world's cutting-edge technology and stands at the academic pinnacle. What was done to my body without my knowledge? 20. The universe follows the law of causality. The law of entropy tells us that the universe moves from order to disorder, and time only flows forward, flowers bloom only to wither, and the dead can never return. The train rumbled along as Chong Bai-lu leaned against the carriage. His hand kept writing in the notebook. How ridiculous, Awan. I once dismissed the theory of cosmic retrogression with contempt. I thought it was just a delusion held by those lunatics who wanted to return to the past, but now, I place all my hopes on the feasibility of that once dismissed hypothesis. The law of conservation of cosmic information. A fringe theory suggests that no information in the universe truly disappears. If every moment of consciousness is a fragment of information, then the existence of you might be recorded within some cosmic structure. Despite my strong disbelief in cosmic rewind theories, I still took advantage of your hospitalization for acute appendicitis 20 years ago, when you were unconscious, to implant what we call an consciousness anchor, a novel conceptual mechanism. In 2002, this technology was immature and offered only one chance. Afterward, it was shelved due to exorbitant costs and unverifiability. It was merely a newly constructed theoretical model. I only confirmed it would cause no side effects for the subject. I didn't even know if it would work. After all, no one knows what the world after death is truly like. We can't observe it. We can't perceive it. Perhaps everything about you had already vanished with the decay of your flesh, or perhaps you're watching me write these very words. In any case, only now do I realize that back then, I had already acted out of selfishness, not wanting you to leave me, and made you the vessel for consciousness anchoring. I stood there frozen, feeling a chill run down my spine. So, I would have consciousness after death, which is why I remained bound to his side. Awan, speak. A white snowfield covered the window panes. His handwriting came to a halt on the final page. Can people really go back to the past? 21. The researchers at the Russian lab seemed very welcoming to Chong Bai-lu's arrival. Or rather, almost every laboratory in the world welcomes Chong Bai-lu, a structure hidden within a snowfield, said to concentrate the world's most cutting-edge technological prowess. They spared no effort to tackle that proposition, a problem humanity has vainly attempted to solve for hundreds of years. Whether traveling to the future or returning to the past, I watched Chong Bai-lu put down the luggage, throwing himself into research without stopping. Watching the draft papers in front of Chong Bai-lu gradually pile up into a thick stack, seeing him constantly forget to eat, with pitifully little sleep each day. He seems to have gone mad, as if solely to verify the answer to that problem. During my daily leisure time, I would use that notebook to write me some messages. I don't understand things like space-time leaps or quantum entanglement, but if I exist here, then perhaps their experiment had some probability of success. And during these days, looking at Chong Bai-lu, who has become like this, as time rustles by in its ceaseless cycle, I find I neither grow weary nor bored. A consciousness entity no longer experiences such emotions. I sat on the nearby bookshelf, staring at him and thought, all along, did I hate him? Actually, not anymore. In the end, feelings wear out until there's nothing left. To be fair, Chong Bai-lu wasn't particularly good or bad. We just became an ordinary couple, perhaps not loving so sweetly. That's all there is to it. I gave him my body and soul, my everything. It's a pity that by the time he turned around, I had already left, and when I learned how emotionally affected he would be by my departure, I actually felt nothing at all. Chong Bai-lu is truly formidable. He can wear down even the most passionate heart until nothing remains, all while believing he wouldn't care in the slightest. But in the end, he miscalculated, but I no longer cared. I sat there, watching it all unfold like scenes from a play. The ending meant nothing to me. Chang Bai-lu no longer mattered to me either. For those wasted years spent on Chang Bai-lu, I have no regrets, for human choices are not meant to be regretted. How I wish Chang Bai-lu could understand this truth and let me go, instead of persisting with this insane experiment as now. His theory involves dividing people into extremely small fragments, somewhat obscure and hard to grasp. I can only try my best to comprehend it. Those extremely tiny fragments can no longer be called individual entities, they are atoms, 10 to the 28th power protons. Remarkably, each proton in its quantum state can precisely mark its structural function. They formed a stream of protons, which is my current form of consciousness. Only this proton stream meets the conditions to advance through wormholes in a light spiral. This experiment succeeded during Chang Bai-lu's third year in Russia. He inserted his thumb into the machine. As it operated, a smooth cross-section was created without producing additional blood, bones, or nerves. He successfully transformed into the same kind of substance as me, unobservable by humans. The severed finger's nerve, belonging to the Changbai willow, absolutely stimulated him. The pain making him clutch his finger and kneel on the ground, yet he laughed. Over the years, he had grown increasingly neurotic. Old Zhao came to see him, bringing sesame cakes from the neighborhood shop that had braved the snowfield, staring at the man before him whose hair had grown long enough to be tied up. Old Zhao just let out a sigh. Old Chang, without Old Lin, fewer and fewer people can keep you in check. I don't think my existence brings anything to Chang Bai-lu. All I can do is offer him a cup of hot tea when he's tired. Is this cup of hot tea important? If Old Zhao could answer my question, he'd definitely grab my shoulders and nod saying it's important. The experiment entered its second phase. It was spring in Moscow. Having already achieved the conditions for artificially creating proton streams, all that remained was to manufacture a wormhole capable of traversing spacetime. I don't understand physics, but wormholes were definitely the most frequently mentioned term in the sci-fi stories of my magazine. The difficulty and absurdity of it all speaks for itself. He wants to artificially create a wormhole and define this behavior with a new term, called quantum self-cleavage. I looked at the words he wrote in his notebook. Under high machine pressure, low temperature, and high-frequency electromagnetic fields, locally perturb this stable vacuum. Use guiding devices to force nonlinear fluctuations in the vacuum state. Space points are extracted from their original causal chains, thereby cleaving into two coherent entrances. It doesn't tunnel through space but reconfigures the topological structure of local space. I can pronounce Chinese characters, but when they're combined, I can't quite understand them. In short, based on his proposed quantum fluctuation theory, a vacuum isn't completely empty but contains spontaneous generation and annihilation of virtual particles. Within extremely short timeframes, energy fluctuations appear in space. Under specific conditions, these minute fluctuations can be artificially amplified or manipulated to form a wormhole entrance that tears open the fabric of space. Chang Bai-lu's experiments were progressing even less smoothly than before, with fewer and fewer supporters. Because he had been inactive in the field of applied physics in recent years, he even attracted criticism, being accused of delving into charlatan research and fantasizing about the impossible reversal of time. They said he had become a madman, experimenting on himself, and would one day die on that terrifying machine. In fact, the prerequisite for time-space travel in his theory is death. After all, being split into protons, a person would already be reduced to something finer than dust. For this reason, no one was willing to be his test subject. He would become the first test subject of the colossal creation he had made, perhaps also the last one. On a sunny morning in Moscow, he faced the final stage of the experiment. The few remaining followers would observe the entire experiment from outside a glass room. As he lay inside that somewhat eerie silver vortex titanium box, the machine started up, and no one knew whether it would slice him into countless invisible fragments, or perhaps it could truly take him through time. Maybe it's both. The buzzing sound of operation filled my ears. Regardless of his condition, I soon reacted. I felt pulled by something, a kind of resonance, a vortex. I spun with its motion yet felt no dizziness. I couldn't perceive it, yet knew that version of myself was fluid. Countless things exploded around me, darting past, abundant. I was being led, yet also felt like rushing water, unable to perceive the flow of time. It was as if billions of years roared past my ears, yet also just an instant. I fell into an abyss, endlessly plummeting, falling. Did Chang Bai-lu's experiment succeed? Perhaps, but I have no time to care for people's cheers. No time to consider how great he is, or what changes the future will bring. I see that I cannot see those whirlpools, I hear that I cannot hear those whispers, until my vision was filled with light. I opened my eyes, the spring breeze brushed by. Light streamed through the library window as the page of poetry journal in my hand turned. Someone by my side is tugging at my sleeve. A1. Today it's Senior Chung's turn to be the teaching assistant. If we go late, we probably won't get seats. 22. The crowd surges past us in a hurried flow. In this library with incomplete materials and slightly worn infrastructure, diligent youths often gather, striving for new ideals. The morning song rings softly, pulling my thoughts back. A1. What's wrong? Haven't you been longing to see Senior Chung? Hurry up, if we're any later there really won't be any seats left. Senior Chung, Chong Bai Lu. Hearing this name, I suddenly snapped back to reality. It's like white noise, gentle yet impossible to ignore. But this time, I noticed one thing, quite intuitively. Upon hearing this name, my first instinct was to avoid it. I don't love Chong Bai Lu anymore. So many years. I've clearly missed him for so many years, accompanied him for so long. So long that we built a family together, so long that we became each other's daily support, even family. In every day and night when my heart was stirred by him, I was lost in thought. I suddenly realized one day that I no longer had any feelings for him, so the day has finally come when I feel this way about him. I gently pushed away the girl's hand holding mine, smiled at her. Go ahead, I want to read a little longer. At least give me one more chance to start over. I don't want Chong Bai Lu. 23. There was a commotion at the door, not too big, not too small, but just enough to make me look up from the Vintage Digest. Someone was in a hurry. When normal people hurry to find someone, they're usually glanced at and ignored by others, but that was Chong Bai Lu. At 20 years old, Chong Bai Lu's white shirt perfectly accentuated his waistline, while the breeze from his walking gently tousled his black, fragmented hair, with deep-set facial features. Compared to his adult self, he still hadn't shed the youthful sharpness of an unsheathed sword. Pursing his lips, exuding an air of keep away. In that unadorned era, he walked as if he were a model straight out of a fashion magazine, drawing everyone's gaze toward him. I hid my face behind the book, hoping not to be noticed. Unfortunately, he walked straight toward me. He grabbed my wrist and tried to kiss me. I raised my hand and slapped him. These two things probably happened within 2 seconds. Causing a small but noticeable gasp from the onlookers, his face was slapped so hard that it twisted to one side. The stray hairs over his forehead obscured his dark eyes, and I couldn't see his expression clearly. All I knew was that his grip on my wrist bone still hadn't loosened. A1. He called out to me. I looked at him. Let go, will you? A cold, firm tone. I never thought I'd one day use it on Chong Bai Lu. The two of us are definitely the center of attention like this. And I don't mind laying everything out in the open. Chong Bai Lu, if you keep dragging me like this, the whole school will spread rumors about you harassing a female classmate. He let go of my hand. I'm sorry, actually, if we're being precise, it's been so long since I died, I haven't spoken to Chong Bai Lu in ages. He unconsciously pressed together the index finger and thumb that had touched me. A light twist. A1. We've gone back to the past. Can we start everything over again? I gazed at him deeply, so deeply, yet many things remained beyond reach. When emotions stirred, I didn't realize it. When I thought to turn back, I found no return. People called him what a pity. Chong Bai Lu was too arrogant. Human relationships always begin beautifully, only to breed hatred through friction. Chong Bai Lu was reversed. He didn't care about me at first, but in the end, he cared about me immensely. But I don't like you anymore, Chong Bai Lu, as the setting sun swayed gently. I walked past him and spoke each word deliberately. 24. I never thought the day would come when my role with Chong Bai Lu would be reversed, but that's how it turned out. In the past, I worked hard to develop new recipes just so he would eat one more bite. He is no less impressive now. I abruptly stopped in my tracks, and the man following me halted as well. I watched as he pulled out a bouquet of dazzlingly fresh roses from behind. He was far too conspicuous, more eye-catching than a bouquet of roses. A fair-skinned boy with downcast eyes and a vibrant red rose. It's truly a feast for the eyes, yet somehow I don't feel the slightest emotional stir. It even annoys me a little. Chong Bai Lu, look at yourself, standing on the stairs. I looked down at him from above. Don't you think this isn't like you anymore, after being rejected by me so many times? Aren't you tired of it yet? Why must you pester me, in this second life? There are clearly so many other things you could be doing. Why bother? I don't care. I can't do it. I can give up everything. but not a life without you." The words he suddenly stopped saying. His dark eyes gazed deeply at me. "I don't want to stay for even a second, Awan. I would die without you." His eyes are truly beautiful, like an obsidian, deep and captivating. I suddenly remembered how I used to long every day for his gaze, clear as water, to fall upon me, hoping he would whisper sweet nothings to me. But why is it that now I don't want to see or hear any of it anymore? The wind cheered, and the petals were blown away, scattered. "But I don't love you anymore. This is the reason." The reason. His eyes suddenly reddened the moment I told him. 25. These days, whenever I return to the dorm, I become the center of conversation. Holding my book, I let my roommates chatter around me. "Awan, you've become a big celebrity. Speak up. What's really going on between you and Changbai Lu? How did you get involved with him?" "Reject Changbai Lu." My roommate nudged my shoulder. "This is so cool. It's possible that Changbai Lu was perceived that way by everyone at the time. The probability of someone actively pursuing another person is even lower than someone proving the Riemann hypothesis. But compared to these, I've gone back to the past. Kiang Bailia really doesn't matter anymore." I closed the book and jumped off the bed. I waved at them. "Let's not talk about this for now. Are you interested in starting a business?" "Starting a business?" I nodded and flipped open the magazine in my hands to show them. The books we're reading now are all paper-based, right? Whether it's serialized novels or submissions. But what if I told you that in the near future, web-based novel formats will rapidly rise in popularity? Would you believe me? I want to create a website for serializing novels. Terms like website and online novels are rarely mentioned in this day and age. The blueprints we envision for the future in our youth are always filled with madness, and the unknown possesses its own uniquely lingering allure, especially now that I hold the key in my hand. One thing is certain, in this lifetime, everything for me can start anew. So compared to entangled romantic love, indeed, walking the path never taken before is far more appealing. The starlight shines brilliantly in my eyes. That night, the lights in the girls' dormitory stayed on until dawn. Everything started anew for me. This lifetime, there will be no Changbai Willow. Beyond all expectations, male lead's perspective. Those who prefer female lead focus should stop reading here for a good ending. Early summer had just begun, with continuous heavy rain these past few days. Changbai Lu stood across from the teaching building, observing from his vantage point. The faintly glowing window was likely hosting some sort of celebration. The carefully wrapped gift in hand, held for so long, yet no longer any reason to give it. He knew even if given, it would end up in the trash bin beside him. Today is Lin Wanjuan's birthday. He disrupted the timeline, taking her back to their first birthday in the past. The 108th day Lin Wanjun rejected him. To be honest, did he know he would end up like this? He knew it. Once the mind starts working, you realize how wrong you were. But why can some emotions be buried so deep? Why can some people walk so far without looking back? He returned to the past, only for the past to mete out its harshest punishment. Truth be told, had he just taken one step forward, things wouldn't have ended this way. If only he had genuinely celebrated her birthdays with her back then. If only he had smiled more when she lifted her head and chirped excitedly at him. If only I could hold her when she's afraid of the cold in winter. If that were the case, maybe she wouldn't dislike him so much. Maybe she wouldn't have refused to tell him even in her final moments. It was that simple. He could have had her. How arrogant he was, when he clearly had so many chances to set things right. Why did he throw them away? Why did he ignore them? His heart ached again, and he pressed a hand against it. I regret it so much. That endless feeling pricked at his heart. A desperate urge to escape time itself enveloped him. I was truly wrong. Can you come back? I beg you. But in that heavy rain, he was like a wandering ghost. He could only look up at the window faintly glowing with warm light, just like before. Every birthday of his and hers, every anniversary, he passed by indifferently, self-righteously thinking it was just formalism. Now if he could spend one more second with her, he'd embrace any formality. The evening wind, carrying rain, crept into the collar. He looked up longingly at the window that would never light up for him again. But at least it's still okay. He went back to the past. At least he could still look at her. Not just a photograph, some memories. One cold nightmare after another. The second-hand ticks past the markings. 3, 2, 1. He murmured silently, softly wishing her the happy birthday he never said aloud. It's dark now. After the lights went out, she was gone too. He was awakened by a tremendous noise. It took him a long while to recover. Only then did he realize the tremendous noise was the sound of himself crashing onto the floor. His bones ached terribly, leaving him too weak to stand up. That's how it is when you get old. All sorts of problems start appearing. Dreaming again, he told himself. Can the time for dreaming be a little longer? He told himself again. He simply lay on the ground, wanting to sleep, but couldn't fall asleep. He stared at the ceiling as the sunset gradually moved across its mottled marks, until someone knocked on the door. He couldn't stand up at all, but he knew the person knocking had a key. After a few minutes, the door was opened by someone. Old Zhao came in tapping his cane, searching for him in the room. Finally, he was found lying on the ground. Old Chang, dead. Old Zhao threw aside his cane to check on him, but he opened his eyes. Why are you lying here? Old Zhao, despite his own advanced age, still came to help him up. He heard his own hoarse voice spill out from his throat. I have to go find A1. She went out to buy groceries today. It's raining. I need to bring her home. A1 is gone. Old Zhao knew he had come again and reminded him without surprise. Are you not taking the medicine the doctor prescribed for you again? She didn't leave, but he could no longer hear Old Zhao speaking, muttering to himself. I found a way to travel back to the past. I found her. She just became a consciousness following me, and then I took her back to the past. We can start over. She's not dead. I found her. The more he spoke, the more excited he became, gesticulating wildly. Pinned down by Old Zhao. Old Chang, let me tell you. It's the year 2049 now. Old Lin has been gone for over 20 years. You didn't travel back in time. What are you thinking about? Modern physics generally considers time as merely information. The past never truly existed. We can never travel through time. You can never go back to the past. He gripped the old man's shoulders across from him. How could you not understand? Chang Bailu suddenly went limp as if drained of strength, staring at him with cloudy eyes. Chang Bailu shook his head, saying no. I've clearly found a way to return to the past. Yes, dreaming is your method of traveling back. Old Chang, you're truly pathetic. For over 30 years, you still can't move on. If that's the case, why didn't you spend those past 20-some years properly with her? I regret it. Chang Bailu just kept repeating this sentence. Yes, but you can't go back to the past, whether you're the most renowned scientist or not. Old Zhao placed the brought flatbread on his desk. Came to see you while taking a walk. Seriously, shouldn't you hire a caregiver to look after you? You're not getting any younger either. Old Chang. The door closed as Chang Bailu sat in the rocking chair, staring at that bowl of baked cakes. He was growing increasingly fond of prolonged silences, yet thoughts revolved with the summer light. It seems he could see again. Seeing that summer from over a decade ago, woven by cicada songs. Awan rushed excitedly through the door, shaking the bag in hand. Old Chang. There's a new pancake stall open downstairs in our neighborhood. Try it. Is it good? He looked at her, crying hysterically, and when my soul left my body, I could see the entire operating room. Now he can't even cry properly. Why are you crying? He just thought of it, that blind date many years ago. He could have refused. Simply because he saw her. Just because it was her. Just because in the vast crowd she was the only one, made him raise his eyes. The end. Story 2. The day the village was swallowed up by the flood, Qin Yanli and I were separated by the flood. Many years later, we met again. I never married in my life. While he had a large family with children and grandchildren, I then learned that he had let go of my hand in the flood that year. It was to go back and save his first love, Su Hui, in order to get rid of the marriage contract with me. He changed his name in a distant place and lived a life of mutual support with Su Hui. Everyone sighed at their immortal love of the older generation, but I wasted my whole life looking for him. I passed away in depression not long after we met again. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the night when my parents forced me to have a relationship with Qin Yanli to make the marriage a fait accompli. 1. In my previous life, I met Qin Yanli again at a grand birthday banquet. It was Su Hui's 60th birthday banquet hosted by him. The scene was filled with celebrities, and the cake was as tall as 2 people. Everyone was dressed in gorgeous clothes, raising their glasses to celebrate. As a cleaner, I stood in a corner of the venue and suddenly saw a familiar face. Although he had aged, I could never forget the cinnabar mole under his eye. The well-tailored black suit set off the old man with gray hair, making him look straight and upright. He wore gold-rimmed glasses and had an elegant manner as he clinked glasses with the woman beside him. I recognized her as Su Hui at once. Time had been kind to her. At the age of 60, Su Hui was wearing a warm white cheongsam that outlined her slender waist. Her skin was delicate and smooth, without a single wrinkle, and she looked no more than a little over 40. In contrast, when I looked at myself reflected in the glass window, I was short and plump, with gray hair all over my head, and my face was weathered and haggard from years of exposure to the wind and sun. Looking at Professor Zhou and his wife, I finally understand what it means to help each other through difficult times and grow old together. They are like a talented scholar and a beautiful woman stepping out of classical poetry. I'm so envious. Look at the way Professor Zhou looks at his wife. His eyes are full of love. There were praises all around, but why was he called Professor Zhou? He was clearly Qin Yanli, whom I had been looking for 40 years. I walked onto the stage with trembling steps. It was only when I grabbed his hand that I knew it wasn't an illusion. Yanli, I'm Sui Yan. I've been looking for you for a long, long time. Hot tears fell. The familiar yet strange eyes under the gold-rimmed glasses froze for a moment. And then he roughly pushed my hand away. He took 2 steps back and frowned tightly. Who are you? I don't know you. This voice made me even more certain that he was Qin Yanli. Afraid that I would never see him again, I shouted desperately, I'm Lu Sui Yan. We were childhood sweethearts and had a betrothal marriage since we were young. In the flood disaster in 1999, the village was destroyed, and we were separated by the flood. I've been looking for you for 40 years. They all said you were dead. It's so good, Yanli, that you're still alive. In sharp contrast to my loss of control was the silence at the scene. Everyone was watching the show, with contemptuous smiles on their faces. The person I was staring at deeply just looked at me with disgust. I suddenly realized that Qin Yanli seemed reluctant to recognize me. Whispers began to spread around. Has this aunt watched too many TV dramas? Does she think she can have something to do with the renowned literary master, Professor Zhou Yan, just by making up a story? The love between Professor Zhou and his wife is so noble. How can this cleaning aunt even mention the words childhood sweethearts? Look at her appearance. How could she possibly know Professor Zhou? She's just daydreaming. At this time, Su Hui's voice came from the side. She was as elegant as a swan and said calmly in the face of the chaos, Madam, you've mistaken someone. My husband and I have never heard of anyone named Lu Sui Yan. You've made a mistake and disrupted my birthday. If you don't leave now, don't blame us for pursuing liability. Su Hui's voice was also familiar. I was certain that they were both pretending. They just didn't want to have anything to do with me. Uncle and Aunt Chen passed away 3 years ago. They were still thinking of you before they left. I suddenly looked up and stared at him fiercely. Qin Yanli, why didn't you go back to the village and take a look? Just because you didn't want to marry me, you even abandoned your own parents. Are you still human? Qin Yanli's expression finally showed a hint of loosening. He quickly adjusted his glasses, avoided my gaze, and said angrily, I said, you've mistaken someone. My surname is Zhou. The middle-aged man who looked very much like Qin Yanli pushed me to the ground. My father can't possibly know someone like you. Security guards. Security guards, come here quickly. Even the child in his arms took the opportunity to spit in my face. 2. Over the years, in order to find Qin Yanli and take care of Uncle and Aunt Chen, I had done everything I could. Because of the betrothal marriage contract from our childhood, I never married in my life. However, Qin Yanli had clearly survived the flood but never returned to the village once. He changed his name in a distant place, married Su Hui, achieved success and fame, and had a large family. I wasn't willing to accept this. The day after I was thrown out of the hotel, I printed thousands of leaflets and made public my experience of searching for someone for 40 years. Qin Yanli and Su Hui were afraid of the great impact, so they privately found me and said they wanted to make peace. They put several stacks of money on the tea table. Su Hui held her head high. 500,000 yuan is enough for your old age support. Qin Yanli sat beside Su Hui with a slight frown, holding her hand. I stared blankly. It turned out that my 40 years were only worth 500,000 yuan. Do you think it's too little? Think for yourself. Can a rural woman like you earn 500,000 yuan in her whole life? Yanli and Ian and I have already done our best. Su Hui firmly took Qin Yanli's arm. Seeing that I didn't say anything, Qin Yanli impatiently stamped his foot. It's all in the past. What else do you want? I suddenly felt like laughing and looked up at the old man who was already white-haired. Back then, you let go of my hand in the flood to save Su Hui, right? Qin Yanli remained calm. You could swim, but Shell we couldn't. What's there to talk about? But how could he know how self-blaming I was when I was struggling in the flood at that time? For 40 years, I had thought it was my fault, in countless dreams at midnight. All I could see were the scenes of the flood swallowing Qin Yanli. It turned out that there was nothing to talk about. I lowered my head, clenched my hands, and asked in a low voice, what about Uncle and Aunt Chen? At least they were innocent, Qin Yanli sneered. Innocent? How could they be innocent when they forced me to marry you? He didn't seem to feel any guilt at all. Lu Suiyan, I'm telling you, I'm free. Parents who ignore my thoughts are not worth having. Moreover, as you can see, I didn't do anything wrong. Without your constraints, I have achieved great success. If I had really married you instead of Shall We back then, I don't know which mountain village I would be regretting in now. The more Qin Yanli talked, the more excited he became, as if he had suffered a lot over the years. Take the money and be content, Su Hui sneered. I didn't take the money because I was afraid they would accuse me of extortion. After leaving the villa, I continued to distribute leaflets and contact the media. I wanted to spend the rest of my life telling the world about the evil deeds of these two people, but before I could witness their downfall, I collapsed on the Cross River Bridge as if I had burned out and never got up again. Qin Yanli and Su Hui were still regarded as an ideal couple in the eyes of the world. I became the cleaning aunt who caused a scene at the celebrity's birthday banquet and was widely spread in short videos. When I opened my eyes again, in front of me was the familiar bungalow in my hometown. 3. You two have a betrothal marriage, why can't you sleep together? In my opinion, you should quickly make the marriage a fait accompli and let the Qin family send the betrothal gifts. The hoarse voice startled me. My father took another sip of wine. Stop eating and go quickly. Seeing that I didn't move, my mother patted my hand. Your father is doing this for your own good. If you don't keep an eye on Yanli, be careful that someone else takes him away. I finally realized that I had been reborn. Are you deaf? Usually, when Yanli is mentioned, you can grin from ear to ear. Why are you being so coy now? My father shouted. I slammed the bowl on the dining table. Mom and Dad, I won't marry this man. My mother's eyes widened, and my younger brother's chopsticks fell to the ground. The next second, my father slapped me, but I dodged backward. What are you talking nonsense about? What's wrong with you today, child? My mother's voice was full of anxiety. My younger brother gnawed on the steamed bun and sneered. Sister, you finally realize that brother Yanli can't possibly like you. I thought you would never understand. Yes, why didn't I understand back then? Why did I have to pour out my heart and soul for someone who wasn't worthy? In my previous life, under the coercion of my family, I braved the severe cold and went to the Qin family's house. The parents of the Qin family treated me well. They took my hand and invited me to have a meal. Only Qin Yanli pulled me outside with a cold face. Running to a man's house at night, who doesn't know what's on your mind? Are you really that impatient? I lowered my head and stammered. It's my father who drove me out, he said. He said that if I didn't spend the night at the Qin family's house, he wouldn't let me back home. Of course, Qin Yanli didn't believe me. He snorted coldly and ordered, I've already said I'll marry you. What's the hurry? Go back. With a bang, he turned around and bolted the door. I didn't notice his undisguised disgust at all. I was excited by his vow that he would marry me. In the heavy snow, I was afraid of being beaten if I went home. So I sat in front of the Qin family's door for a long time. I didn't dare to drag my frozen legs back until the second half of the night. My father still noticed the sound of me opening the door. He slapped me several times and scolded me for being useless. Even though I was beaten, I was still happy in my heart, because Qin Yanli said he would marry me. What was there to worry about? But this time, I didn't want to suffer from the cold and be beaten, and I didn't want to belittle myself anymore. Anyway, I will never marry him. After saying that, I took 2 steamed buns and went into my room. The narrow room was full of traces of Qin Yanli. There were his discarded calligraphy works pasted on the wall, the broken pen he had thrown away on the table, the unused pencil case. Everything related to him was carefully collected by me and regarded as a treasure. But thinking of the ending in my previous life, everything in front of me became hateful. I threw all the things related to him into the trash can at once. Having a second chance at life, I don't want to have anything to do with him anymore. 4. Early the next morning, my mother, as usual, stuffed 2 hard-boiled eggs into my hands. This one is for Yanli. Looking at the eggs in front of me, I suddenly remembered my previous life. At that time, regardless of spring, summer, autumn, or winter, I would always put the warm eggs in my arms and run to school, and then put them in Qin Yanli's desk drawer. One day, he came to my desk and said awkwardly, Suiyan, 1 egg isn't enough to fill me up. I thought so too. He was in the stage of growing taller and needed more food, so every day after that, I gave him my egg as well. But who would have thought that while I was starving every day, Qin Yanli used my breakfast to court Su Hui. I found him to ask for an explanation, and he was actually very confident. You know that Su Hui only has her mother. and her family is in a difficult situation. What's wrong with helping a classmate? As he spoke, he sighed disappointedly. I didn't expect you to be so stingy. After we get married, will you still cut back on my food? After being said like this by him, I felt self-blamed, and because he mentioned getting married, my face turned red. I was deceived by his few words and continued to contribute my breakfast. Thinking of myself at that time, I was really stupid. Mom, one is enough, what's wrong? Aren't you going to eat today? As soon as my mother finished speaking, I peeled the egg and stuffed it into my mouth. Then I went out to school under her stunned gaze. Chinyanli arrived at the classroom a few minutes after me. He was wearing a black windbreaker and brushed off the snow on his body, behind a pair of round glasses. His brows were composed, he was tall and slender, always having an elegant and outstanding temperament that didn't match our small village at all. Chinyanli, as usual, groped in the desk drawer, but after searching for a long time, he found nothing. He seemed not to believe it and bent down to check carefully. After confirming that it was empty, he suddenly turned around and looked at me. My attention was on memorizing words. At this time, Su Hui walked in with her head down. She was wearing a clean floral cotton padded jacket and had 2 braids. In the cold winter, unlike us who were all frostbitten with red cheeks, her skin was translucent, like a peach. Her slender hands showed that she had never done any housework. I remembered that Chinyanli always said she was pitiful. Now it seemed that I couldn't see where her pitifulness was. Although she only had her mother loved and protected her very much and would never let her do any heavy work, and I had been herding cows, gathering pigweed, and carrying well water since I was a child, and I would be slapped by my father for no reason. My hands were as rough as sandpaper. If we were talking about being pitiful, it seemed that I was the more pitiful one, right? However, Chinyanli had never cared about me even once. It wasn't that he couldn't see it, but that he just didn't care. Su Hui clutched the strap of her school bag and walked unsteadily to Chinyanli. Usually, at this time, he would hand her my egg, but today, there was nothing. Chinyanli looked at Su Hui apologetically. Only then did he notice that her lips were pale and she was staggering. He realized that Su Hui had her period. 5. Sit down first and drink some of my hot water. Wait for me, I heard Chinyanli say. Then he came to my desk, looking very nervous. Sui Yin, where's my egg? There isn't any. There won't be any in the future either, I said, looking at the book. Chinyanli was very impatient. Sui Yin, don't be naughty, I just want my share today. As he spoke, he actually grabbed my school bag and started searching it. I was so angry that I almost exploded. I snatched the school bag back and held it in my arms. I said there isn't any. Can't you understand? My voice was so loud that all the classmates in the class looked over. Chinyanli awkwardly pushed his glasses. It's just an egg. Is it really necessary for you to be like this? If there isn't any, then there isn't any. An egg, I laughed. You and Su Hui, for 156 days, 2 eggs a day, you ate a total of 312 eggs of mine. I couldn't hold it in anymore and shouted, pay me back, pay me back. Chinyanli's eyes widened. He had never expected me to treat him like this. Sui Yin, are you crazy? I grabbed his collar tightly and looked at Su Hui. You 2 shameless people, pay me back quickly. Suddenly, Su Hui's eyes were filled with tears. She hugged her head and lay on the table crying. The classmates began to whisper, I'd feel ashamed if I took someone else's egg for free, but she's eaten over 100 eggs and still has the nerve to cry. Sui Yin's family is already in a difficult situation, yet they still dared to take those eggs. He has a betrothal marriage but keeps thinking about someone else all day. I've long said there's something wrong with them. Lu Suiyan really has patience. If it were me, I would have exploded long ago. The whispers grew louder and louder. Su Hui suddenly stood up, her eyes filled with tears as she retorted, I never asked Lu Suiyan for her eggs. She pointed at me angrily. Ask her yourselves. Did I ever force her even once? She knew about my family's situation and offered them voluntarily. Now she's going back on her word. How do you expect me and Yanli to face others? I underestimated how brazen Su Hui could be. Since she dared to distort the truth like this, I simply shouted, so what if I'm going back on my word? Pay me back. Give me the money. I pushed my chair back, and Su Hui stepped back in fright. Some onlookers whistled. Ooh, the main wife and the mistress are fighting. Who's his wife? I will never marry him. I looked at that person. Qin Yanli firmly grabbed my wrist, afraid that I would rush up and attack Su Hui. Lu Suiyan, aren't you embarrassed enough? Making such a big fuss over a few eggs. You want compensation, I'll pay. He threw my arm away. It has nothing to do with Su Hui. I forced the eggs on her. She doesn't owe you anything. My brows furrowed in pain, but I stubbornly refused to show weakness. Looking straight into his eyes, a sense of sadness welled up in my heart. Once, he would stand up for me when I was wronged and take care of me anxiously when I was sick, but after Su Hui appeared, everything changed. I finally realized that he was no longer the person in my memory. Qin Yanli, I hate you. I will never marry you. 2 lines of tears fell silently. Seeing me cry, Su Hui started crying even louder. Qin Yanli's expression, which had just softened, turned stern again. He withdrew his hand that was reaching out to me and curled his lips disdainfully. Fine, that's exactly what I want. Then he quickly walked over to Su Hui, squatted beside her desk, and comforted her in a soft voice. 6. The next morning, Qin Yanli slapped a few banknotes on my desk. Without looking up, I took the money and no longer pestered him all the time like I used to. Now, Qin Yanli was almost inseparable from Su Hui every day, whether it was on the way to and from school or during breaks. However, I could occasionally catch him looking at me out of the corner of my eye. It seemed that Qin Yanli had been waiting for me to change my mind. This was an era when knowledge could change one's destiny. No matter how noisy the surroundings were, I devoted all my energy to studying. In my previous life, I never had the chance to change my life. When I was in my senior year of high school, although my grades were quite good, my father said, if a girl studies too much, she'll become too opinionated and start competing with men for power. Once you marry Yanli, won't you be arguing with him every day? In my opinion, you should quit school as soon as possible and save some money for Xiaobao. Unwilling to accept this, I went to ask Qin Yanli for his opinion. At that time, he was practicing calligraphy and didn't care about this decision that could change the course of my life. He lifted his indifferent eyes and said, isn't your biggest dream to be a good wife and loving mother and spend your life with me? What's the use of studying? I didn't notice the mockery in his words. Blushing, I lowered my head and stammered in protest. I never said such a thing. My unwillingness was overshadowed by joy, so I dropped out of school in my senior year. Even my head teacher talked to me. She said I was sure to get into a good university and told me not to give up on myself. I smiled calmly and said, Teacher, for a rural girl like me, getting through high school is already quite an achievement. After that, I stayed at home to help my parents with farm work, waiting peacefully for the day when Qin Yanli would marry me. But in the end, a flood made me a widow for him for 40 years. In those 40 years, I wasted my youth and exhausted my beauty for him. Meanwhile, he had a large family with Su Hui, enjoying the happiness of family life. Reborn, I made up my mind to go to university and have nothing more to do with Qin Yanli. I did well in all subjects except mathematics, which I often failed, so as soon as class was over, I would go to ask my head teacher for help and take copious notes. I never imagined that the notes I cherished so much would be destroyed by Su Hui. 7. One day, after having lunch at home, I rushed to school without taking a break. On the way, I met Qin Yanli. The moment our eyes met at the alley entrance, he crossed his arms and sneered, thought you hated me. Can't you last a few days before coming to find me? I ignored him and quickened my pace, trying to create some distance, eager to get to the classroom and organize my notes. We walked in silence until we reached the classroom door. Qin Yanli stepped forward quickly and grabbed my arm. Lu Suiyin, let me tell you, you can play your act, but my patience has limits. If you get jilted, don't come crying to me. I raised my head calmly and said, I've already told my parents that I'm breaking off the engagement with you, not the other way around. Qin Yanli's pupils dilated. For the first time, I saw a startled expression on his face. Then he sneered, your parents are just as difficult to deal with as you are. What difference does it make if you told them? Qin Yanli didn't believe that I had given up on him, but it didn't matter anymore. In half a year, I would be admitted to university and leave him behind completely. Let go. I struggled free and pushed the door open into the classroom. What greeted my eyes was Su Hui standing in front of the trash can. She was holding my notebook and tearing it into pieces. One by one, my blood boiled instantly. I rushed up, grabbed her braids, and threw her to the ground. My precious notebook had already become shreds, stuck in the trash can and soaked in dirty water. Lu Suiyin, what are you doing? Su Hui let out a scream and got up, swinging her fist at me. I kicked her down again. Doing farm work all year round had its advantages. At this moment, for example, Su Hui had no ability to fight back. Why did you touch my notebook? Why? I asked, slapping her hard. Suddenly, a powerful force came from behind. My neck was locked, and the next second, I was thrown to the side. My forehead hit the desk and chair, scraping and bleeding. Dazed, I looked up and saw Chen Yanli protecting Su Hui in his arms. The girl's crying made the boy's eyes red. Has Lu Suiyan gone crazy? It's just a notebook. Do you have to be so brutal? I suddenly remembered the scene when Chen Yanli stood up for me when we were kids. Back then, he was just a little taller than me in his cotton-padded jacket. He spread his arms to protect me behind him, clenched his small fists, and threatened the second-grade boy opposite in a childish voice. Nobody is allowed to bully Suiyan, otherwise, I'll beat you up. He grew up with me as the center of his world. How could someone who once promised to grow old with me change so quickly? I bit my lip hard. And big tears fell. Only then did Chen Yanli notice the wound on my forehead. Before he could speak, Su Hui, who was lying in his arms, wailed at the top of her lungs. I didn't know it was Suiyan's notebook. I saw it on the ground and thought it was trash. I really didn't know. Perhaps Chen Yanli felt a bit guilty towards me, but I could never compare to Su Hui. He carefully examined Su Hui's wounds. When he saw the scratches on her ear, he became furious. Lu Suiyan, you're used to fetching water and carrying manure all day. You don't know how hard to hit. Can you take responsibility if she gets a scar? He punched the ground. How could someone like you be a match for me? After crying, I felt relieved. Looking at Chen Yanli's expression of frustration, I stood up, wiped away my tears vigorously, and looked at him word by word. It's you who isn't good enough for me. Chen Yanli looked up in disbelief. 8. The torn-up notes could never be retrieved. Chen Yanli and I never spoke again. When we passed each other on ordinary days, I didn't even look up, treating him like a stranger. Several times, Chen Yanli found me on the way home from school and tried to say something, but I looked straight ahead as if I didn't see him. He was so angry that he shouted behind me, "Fine, Lu Suiyan, see if you can keep this act up for the rest of your life." After learning about the notebook, my head teacher called me for a talk during the break. She patted my arm and comforted me. "Suiyan, there's a little over half a year until the college entrance examination. You must focus on your studies and don't waste time on those trivial matters." I smiled and said, "Don't worry, I won't let those awful people and things bother me." The head teacher nodded and sighed. "Back then, when you said you were dropping out of school, I tried to persuade you again and again, but you wouldn't listen. I felt so sorry that I couldn't sleep at night." "What made you change your mind?" I smiled and said, "Because I want to leave here and see a bigger world." Unlike me, who was fully devoted to studying, Chen Yanli and Su Hui grew closer and closer. Whenever they had time, they would stick together, doing homework, laughing, and joking. Everyone secretly mocked me, saying that the main wife had finally been discarded, but I knew Chen Yanli too well. He deliberately got close to Su Hui while secretly observing my reaction. As if he thought that if I got provoked, I would go back to being the same as before, hovering humbly in front of him. In fact, it was unnecessary. Even if they kissed in the classroom now, my heart wouldn't stir. He no longer mattered to me at all. I really didn't want to have any contact with Chen Yanli, but things didn't go as I wished. We met again a month later, at his coming-of-age ceremony. I didn't plan to go, considering how he had hurt me in my previous life. Back then, I started preparing for Chen Yanli's coming-of-age ceremony early. After finishing farm work and homework every day, I would stay up late knitting a sweater for him. It took me 5 whole months, constantly undoing and re-knitting, before I finally finished it. At the lively banquet, the villagers jeered, saying that since both Chen Yanli and I had come of age, we should get married the next year. Looking at the handsome face of the boy opposite, I lowered my head, my ears burning. Su Hui, who was sitting below, stamped her foot in anger and ran out. Chen Yanli saw this scene. In response to the teasing, he suddenly exploded and threw the sweater I gave him onto the dining table. The soup stained the white sweater yellow, and the alcohol stove instantly set it on fire. He clenched his fists, his eyes red as he glared at me. "I hate white the most." Then he dashed out to chase after Su Hui. After that, there were all kinds of rumors about my humiliation in the village. How could I put myself through that again? Unexpectedly, my parents secretly took the sweater I made and planned to give it to Chen Yanli as a gift to show my apology. He couldn't have it. Absolutely not. I dashed out of the house. 9. I ran all the way to the largest restaurant at the village entrance. Just like in my previous life, a dozen tables were set up in a row, and the men, women, and children of the village had already started the feast. The Chen family sat at the honored seats. In the center was Chen Yanli. He looked around anxiously, but the moment he saw me, he relaxed. He poured himself a glass of wine and took a sip, and the closer I got, the wider his smile became. My father took out the white sweater from his bag and presented it to Qin Yanli, showing it off. Look at this, everyone. The girl spent more than 5 months knitting this. Her hands are full of calluses. Chen's mother smiled widely. Only Suiyan knows how to show consideration. I can't wait for her to become part of our family. My mother joined in the laughter. Qin Yanli, and Uncle and Aunt Chen, don't take what Suiyan said these days to heart. It's normal for young couples to have some conflicts. My father quickly agreed. That's right. I've read all of my daughter's diaries since she was a child. Every one of her wishes was to marry Yanli. Watching me approach quickly, Qin Yanli held the sweater and a disdainful smile appeared on his face. I've never taken Suiyan's words seriously. Oh, Suiyan, you're here. Your parents said you had a fever. I thought you weren't coming, Uncle Chen said to me. I stared at Qin Yanli and stretched out my hand. Give me the sweater back. Qin Yanli frowned, as if he thought he had misheard. Without saying more, I reached out to grab it. My mother pulled my hand away, and Qin Yanli stepped back in shock, still holding the sweater. Suiyan, what are you doing in front of everyone? My father pushed me aside. Once a gift is given, there's no reason to take it back. Suddenly, I became the target of everyone's criticism. This is my thing. I don't want to give it to him. Nonsense. You spent months knitting this sweater for Yanli. Don't I know that? My mother said with a cold face. It's mine. Ignoring thee, I pushed through the crowd and forcefully snatched the sweater back. Qin Yanli stood there, looking at his empty hands in a daze. My father was furious and raised his hand to hit me. I swatted his arm away and shouted in front of everyone, Mom and Dad, I don't like Qin Yanli anymore. Not at all. I looked at the village chief beside me. Grandpa Zhou, be our witness. The betrothal marriage between me and Qin Yanli is off. The lively banquet fell silent all of a sudden. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a figure stand up. It was Su Hui. She looked at Qin Yanli with excitement all over her face, her expression full of joy. One moment, my mother was crying and saying I was out of my mind, and the next moment, she rolled up her sleeves and rushed forward. You shameless girl. Do you think I'm deaf and haven't heard those rumors, you immoral thing? Qin Yanli and Suiyan were in love, and it's all your fault. She cursed and went to scratch Su Hui's face. Su Hui's mother got angry and started fighting with her. Seeing this, my father stepped in to help. Su Hui cowered aside, and flying bowls and dishes hit her coat. Qin Yanli walked through the crowd step by step. Su Hui, who had been sobbing, seemed to have found a backer immediately. She glanced at me, and the fear in her eyes was replaced by arrogance, as if saying she had finally won. Yes, Qin Yanli, rushed to Su Hui, in front of the whole village, protect her tightly in your arms, let it all end. But I never expected that. Qin Yanli stopped in front of me, his eyes were red, and his hands were shaking as he held mine. Suiyan, why don't you like me anymore? I pulled my hands away. Because you're not good enough for me. There were many laughs from the banquet. My father roared, this is ridiculous. It would be a blessing from our ancestors if Yanli married you. How could he not be good enough for you? Looking into Qin Yanli's eyes, I didn't waver. You just aren't. Qin Yanli's chest heaved violently, as if he had countless words to say, but in the end, he just let out a cold snort, laughed, gulped down a glass of white liquor, and smashed the wine glass to pieces. Fine, if you want to break off the engagement, then do it, Lu Suiyan, I don't have to have you. He turned and left the banquet. Su Hui immediately came back to life. She stood there calling out to Qin Yanli several times, but he didn't look back. Watching his disappearing back, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. This time, Qin Yanli and I really had nothing to do with each other anymore. I was free. 10. Unlike in the previous life, after the banquet, it was the Su family's mother and daughter who lost all face. The villagers scolded Su Hui's mother for being unruly after becoming a widow, and said that her daughter had followed suit, destroying the marriage between me and Qin Yanli. Uncle and Aunt Chen understood my feelings and tried to persuade me all night, saying that Qin Yanli had always put me first. Maybe he had been a bit distracted, but it was all Su Hui's fault. Everyone was trying to persuade me, as if my life would be over without Qin Yanli. I knew I couldn't persuade them, so I simply kept quiet. Anyway, as long as I got into university, I could leave this place, although rumors were spreading in the village. Su Hui didn't care. Now she no longer had to avoid being seen with Qin Yanli. In the classroom, she would hug his waist tightly, act coquettishly, pinch his face, and call his name in a charming voice, announcing to everyone that Qin Yanli was her boyfriend. Qin Yanli didn't say anything, tacitly accepting it, as I had expected. This should have been a huge sensation. I thought Qin Yanli would have red ears. spin Su Hui around in his arms, take her home. And always stand in front of her when being scolded by Uncle and Aunt Chen. But Qin Yanli's reaction was very cold. What was even more surprising was that after they got together, instead of becoming more affectionate, they had more and more conflicts. In the previous life, Qin Yanli went to find Su Hui after he became successful. Money could smooth over all conflicts. In this life, they got together when they were poor. And as the saying goes, poverty makes a couple miserable in everything. Su Hui thought Uncle and Aunt Chen lacked courage. Unlike the parents of her best friend, who went into business and opened several companies, she also thought Qin Yanli was unromantic. Her best friend's boyfriend was handsome and took great care of her, while Qin Yanli ignored her after getting together with her. As cold as a block of wood, as the spring festival approached, they had a big fight in class. It started when Su Hui asked Qin Yanli to accompany her to the town to buy New Year clothes. Qin Yanli thought the final exam was coming up and studying was more important, so he refused. Su Hui was so angry that she screamed in class, hit Qin Yanli with her hands, and brought up how considerate her best friend's boyfriend was. This made Qin Yanli push her against the wall in anger. If you like him so much, then go to him. Day by day, they were like characters in a TV drama. And the classmates in the class watched with great interest, gathering around and cheering and laughing. Su Hui cried on the table again, annoyed. Qin Yanli packed his school bag and left the classroom. It was the first time he skipped class. We passed each other in the corridor. He stopped, called my name in a plaintive voice. I didn't look back. When the final exam results came out, Qin Yanli, who had always ranked first in the school, performed extremely poorly and dropped to outside the top 30. I, on the other hand, ranked 10th in the school. Holding the report card, I ran home, eager to prove the fruits of my efforts to my family, but my father didn't look happy at all. Instead, he threatened me, go apologize to Yanli and ask the Chen family to send the betrothal gifts now, otherwise, don't expect me to pay your tuition next semester. I slapped my chopsticks on the table. I've said it countless times. I won't marry Qin Yanli. My father seemed to go crazy. He picked up a shovel from behind the door and pressed it against my neck. Just because you ranked 10th in the school, you think you're amazing. Who else would want you if you don't marry Yanli? Will you marry him or not? My mother was crying and trying to hold him back, while my younger brother ate his meal indifferently. For all these years, this was how I had lived. All the good things belonged to my younger brother. And I was like an ornament, getting beaten for no reason. The grievances and dissatisfaction that had been pent up in my heart for years suddenly exploded. I shouted, just because you're my father, do you think I won't hold a grudge? You unfilial girl, how dare you talk to me like this? My father roared, his wide open eyes full of disbelief. Why should I be filial to someone who treats me like dirt? Tears welled up in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I'm determined to study. I'll even sell my blood if I have to. This dispute reached the Chen family. Early the next morning, I was torn between going to the town to work during the winter vacation or borrowing money from my head teacher first. As I walked in the snow, feeling lost, suddenly someone hugged me from behind. Before I could scream, I heard Qin Yanli's voice in my ear. 11, Sui Yan, please don't sell your blood. It's very dangerous, I'm begging you. He held me tightly, his body trembling slightly, as if afraid that if he let go, I would do something stupid. After a moment of stunned silence, I broke free from his embrace. My business has nothing to do with you. I turned and walked away. Qin Yanli persistently grabbed my hand and handed me a stack of banknotes of various denominations. Sui Yan, I'll pay for your studies. Looking a bit nervous, he turned his face away. I've broken up with Su Hui. I've thought a lot during this time. Sui Yan, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Su Hui isn't worth my love. So, his voice was barely audible. So, can we go back to the way we were? When it's time to fill out the college application forms, we can apply to the same university. I'll go wherever you go, and we can get married as soon as we graduate. Why did Qin Yanli still hold on to such illusions? I shook off his hand. What if Su Hui was worth it? Qin Yanli opened his eyes wide, as if not understanding what I meant. You only realized after dating Su Hui that she didn't meet your expectations. But what if she did? If she was your first love and your confidant, quiet, perfect, and willing to give everything for you? If that were the case, would you still be standing here today? Qin Yanli, even if I sold all my blood and it was reported in the newspaper, you'd probably just open it up and read it as news. I was calm, and as I spoke, I laughed. Qin Yanli, I know you too well. You thought I was joking when I said you weren't good enough for me, right? No, you really aren't good enough for me. When I loved you, I was willing to give you both of my 2 eggs, but for you, whether it's Su Hui or me, you'd only be willing to give one. You're selfish and don't know how to love. That's the biggest difference between us." I buried my face in my scarf and said coldly, "Don't come to me again, it's really disgusting." That day, Qin Yanli stood in the snow for a long, long time. In the end, Uncle and Aunt Qin came to take him home. 12. I still didn't have the courage to borrow money from my head teacher. I decided to go work during the winter vacation to save some money first. If it really didn't work out, then I'd trouble my head teacher. That night, my mother pushed open the door to my room and stuffed a small box into my arms. "I'm not capable, but I'll definitely scrape together the money for you to go to school." Under the dim light, she patted my hand. Only then did I notice how rough her hands were, like sandpaper. All these years, it wasn't just me who had suffered, my mother had too. I hugged my mother tightly and suppressed my sobs as I vowed, "Mom, I will definitely get into university and make your life better." Throughout the winter vacation, I didn't relax at all. I wrote test papers, forgetting to eat and sleep. Before I knew it, school started again, and the seats in the class were rearranged. I was seated even more towards the front, and Qin Yanli was in the second row diagonally in front of me, just 3 or 5 meters away. He looked both apologetic and pleasantly surprised, and turned his head to look at me. I glanced away without responding. Now, no one could shake my determination to get into university. Suddenly, I felt a sharp tug on my hair. Su Hui had grabbed it. "You copycat. Yanli doesn't like you at all. What do you mean by trying to seduce him now? Give up. You and I aren't even comparable. You're so rustic. Even if you imitate me for a lifetime, you'll never be as good as me." When I turned my head, I saw that Su Hui was also wearing an orange-red padded jacket. She thought I was copying her. I didn't want to waste time explaining. I grabbed her arm, kicked her to the ground. Su Hui couldn't fight me. She just wanted to play the victim, squirming on the ground. "Yanli, help me. I'm so scared. I'm going to be beaten to death." Wah. With a drama at the start of the school term, the classmates were all as excited as monkeys, gathering around and shouting, but Qin Yanli rushed to me, gently smoothing my disheveled hair with a worried look. "Sui Yan, are you hurt anywhere? Don't touch me." I stepped back, hearing the commotion. Su Hui immediately got up and hugged Qin Yanli tightly from behind. "You clearly told me that a rustic girl like Lu Suiyan wasn't good enough for you. What's wrong with you now? I'm prettier and more sensible than her. We're a perfect match. Yanli, please don't break up with me." Qin Yanli's face changed drastically when his past words were exposed. He forcefully broke free from Su Hui and shouted angrily, "Suiyan and I had a betrothal marriage. We were meant to be together. It was you who meddled. What right do you have to accuse us wrongly?" Su Hui stood there in disbelief, her eyes blurred with tears. I tied up my braid and stared at her, threatening. "If you provoke me again, I'll show you what a rustic country girl is capable of." After this incident, Su Hui indeed became much quieter, but she still pestered Qin Yanli, hoping he would change his mind, and Qin Yanli just kept refusing her. Somehow, from some point on, he only had eyes for me. 13. The college entrance examination arrived along with the sweltering summer. In my previous life, I didn't take the college entrance examination, so this time everything was a new experience for me. But I wasn't nervous at all. I knew I had prepared thoroughly. Sure enough, after getting the test papers in the exam room, I wrote non-stop. Soon, the results were announced. I scored 636, ranking 2nd in the school and 8th in the entire township. Surprised, my head teacher specially came to my home and told me not to worry about the tuition fees, as the village chief would arrange for donations to support me. When my father saw this, he didn't dare to speak loudly in front of me anymore. As for Qin Yanli, he was constantly pestered by Su Hui, and his performance in the exam suffered. He only scored a little over 500 points. Su Hui had never focused on studying and didn't even score 300 points. Uncle and Aunt Qin came to my home to chat, complaining that Su Hui had held Qin Yanli back. As they talked, they looked at me. Aunt Qin wiped her tears and said, "I've always said Sui Yan is the best." I smiled but didn't say anything, then left the room. On the day of filling out the college application forms, Qin Yanli stood in the corridor looking dejected. When he saw that I was also going to fill out the forms, he followed me and said in a low voice, "Sui Yan, which university do you plan to apply to? It's none of your business." Qin Yanli almost pleaded, "Sui Yan, please tell me, even though I can't go to the same university as you, I want to be in the same city as you." I turned to look at him. "Where do you want to go?" Qin Yanli's face lit up with surprise. "I want to go to Beijing." "Sui Yan, I see. I'm not going to Beijing. Chen Yanli stood there stunned, his eyes welling up with tears. He said reluctantly, Sui Yin. Do you hate me that much? Before, no matter what I did, you would forgive me. Now that I know I was wrong and I'll never hurt you again, why won't you forgive me this one last time? I wanted to say, it's not that I hate you, I just don't care anymore. But I didn't look back. For someone who was no longer important, ignoring him was enough. 14. After filling out the application forms, I stayed at home waiting for the admission notice. Suddenly, continuous heavy rain started to pour down. The date circled on the calendar was getting closer and closer. It was the day when the village was destroyed by the flood in my previous life. Our village had several heavy rains every year. In the previous life, no one took it seriously, and it was the same this time. I told my parents that the rain was too heavy and something was wrong, and we should leave immediately. They said I was too nervous waiting for the admission notice and was being overly suspicious of the annual rain. I didn't dare to delay. I went to find my head teacher in the middle of the night with an umbrella. She had always trusted me the most. With her support, we managed to persuade the village chief and contacted the staff in charge of the dam upstream. They said the water level had indeed risen more severely than in previous years, but they didn't dare to decide whether we should evacuate the village or not. I couldn't help but shout, Uncle Zhou, our entire village can't afford to take this risk. How about we mobilize everyone to leave first? Once the rain subsides, we can always come back. My words gave the village chief the determination he needed. He immediately stood up, slapping the table. That's right, we can't afford to take the risk. I'll go door to door right now to persuade everyone. In the middle of the night, the entire village was lit up. People carried their valuables on their backs and headed towards the town on higher ground upstream. Chen Yanli walked behind his parents. When someone saw me leading the way, they deliberately complained loudly. The village chief actually believes a little girl and is making the whole village toss in the middle of the night. In my opinion, the rain is about to stop. What's the point of running away? The young man was about to continue humiliating me when Chen Yanli picked up a bamboo pole and hid it in front of his rubber shoes. He looked at the young man coldly. Since the rain is about to stop, you can stay behind. Confronted like this, the other person blushed with embarrassment. Of course, he didn't dare to go back to the village and quietly turned and followed the crowd. In fact, there were quite a few people who thought the same way, and many people indeed stayed in the village, such as Su Hui and her mother. They insisted, our village hasn't had a flood in decades, so there won't be one this year either. No matter how the village chief tried to persuade them, they refused to leave. But when the flood came, it came quickly and no one could stop it. The next morning, the news that the village had been destroyed spread everywhere. Many people rushed to me and the village chief to express their gratitude. On the third day, after the sun came out, the water level dropped significantly. The village chief organized those who could swim to go back for disaster relief. When he saw me join the team, Chen Yanli quickly raised his hand as well. We rode back to the village. Everywhere we looked, there were destroyed earthen houses and bungalows. Su Hui and her mother were hugging a tree, and when they saw people coming, they immediately burst into tears. Save us, please save us. Su Hui's white nightgown had long been stained muddy yellow. There were many fallen trees where they were, and the boat couldn't get through, so someone shouted, Sui Yin. Swim over from the side and bring 2 life rings. Without thinking much, I helped Aunt Sun, who had just been rescued, onto the boat, then turned and swam towards Su Hui. I never expected that at such a critical moment, she would try to harm me. She slapped away the life ring I handed her, pretended to be weak and fell into the water. The next second, while pushing me underwater, she screamed, "Ah, I can't swim, I'm so scared." Chen Yanli was not far away. Su Hui believed that if she was about to die, Chen Yanli would definitely save her. I was a good swimmer, but Su Hui clung to me like a monkey. I choked on several mouthfuls of muddy water, and my consciousness gradually faded. Chen Yanli, who witnessed everything, quickly put down the oars. He had never swum so fast nor been so panicked. Su Hui was overjoyed and kept shouting, "Yanli, save me." Suddenly, a huge flood wave surged, and both Su Hui and I were swept away. When the turbid floodwaters, carrying broken logs, crashed down on my head, Chen Yanli stretched out his arm to block it. There was a sickening cracking sound of bones breaking. He pressed me tightly against his chest. "Hold on to me." He didn't even glance at Su Hui, who was screaming in the distance and grabbing onto a floating log. "Keep your head down." Chen Yanli suddenly pressed me into his arms as a piece of steel rebar scraped across his back. Blood mist exploded in the turbulent waves. I heard his muffled groan. But his arm around me didn't move an inch. Chinyanli and I were finally washed ashore and rescued downstream. Once I recovered, I quickly checked his wounds. Seeing my worried expression, Chinyanli, who looked pale, actually smiled brightly. He reached out and stroked my face, whispering pleadingly, "Suiyin, can you call me Yanli one more time?" I was momentarily stunned. In the past, I couldn't bear to see him get even a little hurt, but now, his pain only seemed ironic to me. "Chinyanli, do you think this is atonement?" I said coldly. "I won't be moved by you, and I definitely won't get back together with you. How many times do I have to say it? It's long over between us." The light in his eyes shattered instantly. 15. After the flood receded, the village began to be rebuilt. This time, there were no casualties, and I finally felt at ease. The news that Su Hui had tried to harm me spread, and everyone regarded me as a savior, ostracizing the Su family everywhere. When Uncle and Aunt Chen learned that Chinyanli had saved me, they came to propose marriage again, hoping to use the favor of saving my life to make us reconcile. Naturally, I wasn't willing. Before I could say anything, it was Chinyanli who stopped them. His arm was in a cast. "Mom and Dad, stop forcing Suiyin. I'm not worthy of her now." He stole a cautious glance at me, then raised his head firmly, looking into my eyes and bowing. "But Suiyin, please wait for me. I will work hard to catch up with you. One day, we can start over." That day, Chinyanli left behind a piece of calligraphy, a poem that I had loved very much when I was deeply in love with him. Back then, no matter how much I begged, I couldn't get his writing. Now that I no longer loved him, he actually gave it to me on his own initiative. On the thin rice paper, the ink spread out. "At the spring banquet, I sing a song with each cup of green wine. I make 3 wishes. First, may my Lord live 1,000 years. Second, may I stay healthy. Third, may we be like the swallows on the beam, seeing each other year after year." But now, what was there for us to meet again for? I crumpled up the piece of paper and threw it into the trash can. 16. I finally left the village and went to a big city to start my university life. I majored in computer science, one of the most popular majors at the beginning of the new century. With the memories of my previous life, I spared no effort to seize the opportunities. During university, I sold CDs, worked as a computer technology teacher, and later opened a training class. After saving up a sum of money, I quickly took out a loan to buy a house in Beijing, fulfilling the promise I made to my mother. Money is truly a wonderful thing. After gaining financial power, my father no longer dared to criticize me, and my younger brother, who had always been cold-hearted, learned to be observant and always agreed with me. Since I started university, Chinyanli would come to see me whenever he had time. Sometimes he would just watch from a distance, and sometimes he would come up and talk to me about his recent situation as if performing a monologue. I was annoyed and told him to get lost. One day, there was a boy by my side. He was completely different from Chinyanli. He wasn't arrogant at all, never put on airs, and seemed willing to give me everything he had. When he saw the boy, Chinyanli, who had always remained calm, finally lost his mind. He grabbed my shoulders and shook me violently. "Suiyin, why didn't you wait for me? I've been working hard to be worthy of you. Why do you pretend not to see it?" I held back my anger. "What does your business have to do with me? Get lost. Stop interfering in my life." Chinyanli shook his head in disbelief. The next second, Qingyi subdued him and pinned him to the ground. "You're the one pretending. Suiyin hates you so much, but you keep pretending not to see it." He looked up at me to soothe me. "Suiyin, go back to the dormitory first. I'll handle this." I nodded and quickly left. Chinyanli shouted desperately, "Suiyin, don't go. Please, don't leave me." After that, I was prepared for him to pester me again, but unexpectedly. For 5 consecutive months, Chinyanli seemed to have disappeared. Later, I found out that Chinyanli had married Su Hui. It was said that after causing a scene at my school that day, Qingyi and I called the police. He was given a major demerit at school. In a bad mood, he indulged in alcohol. In a muddled state, he ended up sleeping with Su Hui, who had come to find him. Su Hui threatened that if Chinyanli didn't marry her, she would create a fuss everywhere and that she had plenty of ways to ruin his life. So, while still in his junior year of university, Chinyanli and Su Hui had a simple wedding in the village. After learning all this, I finally felt completely relieved. 17. 8 years after graduation, I went back to the village for the first time, to discuss the establishment of a girls' school there. In recent years, my computer training school had been doing well, and I had already opened 3 branch schools. Having come from a mountain village, I couldn't forget the looks in the eyes of girls who, like me, longed for knowledge. After earning my second pot of gold, I shared my idea of building a girls' school, and Chinyi strongly supported me, accompanying me back to the village. One spring day, we were walking through the fields with town and village officials, checking the potential locations for the school. Suddenly, a shrill curse stopped everyone in their tracks. "Damn it. All you do is drink all day long, why don't you just drink yourself to death?" Su Hui, holding a baby in her arms, kicked someone out of the house. The person, with disheveled hair, looked like a homeless person. After rolling on the ground twice, he simply sat there and took big gulps of wine. Suddenly, he froze, and our eyes met. The cinnabar mole that had once been so dazzling under his messy hair had long faded. Qin Yanli stood up tremblingly and walked towards me step by step. "Sui Yin. Did you come to see me?" The people around quickly surrounded me protectively. The village chief cursed, "Go home right now and stop scaring people." Qin Yanli seemed to come to his senses. The wine bottle shattered on the ground. Looking at his rough hands, he desperately pulled at his hair, apologizing like a madman. Sorry. I had heard about his situation. After marrying Su Hui, he had been depressed and developed a drinking problem. He had become a good for nothing, staying at home all day. Su Hui, who had used all means to marry him, now deeply regretted it. At this moment, Su Hui rushed out when she heard the commotion. When she saw me, her face changed instantly, then she spat on the ground. "What the hell are you looking at? Want to rekindle an old flame? Here you go, take this piece of trash away right now. Don't you dare curse at Sui Yin." Qin Yanli jumped up and started fighting with Su Hui. "It's all your fault, you've ruined me. The immortal love from my previous life had now become so pathetic." Halfway through the construction of the girls' school, Su Hui left the village with her child. Shortly after, Qin Yanli disappeared as well. Maybe he changed his name and started over in a distant place again, but I no longer cared. 18. On the day the girls' school was completed, I went back to the village again. The 6-story teaching building stood at the entrance of the village, with white walls and red tiles. Looking like a crane spreading its wings, a little girl with pigtails ran over, tugging at the hem of my clothes. "Principal, can I be as amazing as you in the future?" I squatted down and wiped the mud off her face. "Of course you can, as long as you study hard, you'll be even more amazing than me in the future." These chattering little girls, some of them used to herd cows in the fields, some used to tend the stove, and some were even on the verge of being married off for bride price by their families, but now, they sat in bright classrooms, holding textbooks in their hands, their eyes shining with hope. As the sun set, the teaching building was bathed in the gentle glow of the setting sun. An airplane soared through the blue sky, leaving a white trail of vapor. Looking at the smiling faces in front of me, I couldn't help but smile too. Fly, Girls, Story 2. In the year he turned 80, Shinjili passed away. Having shared a life closely intertwined with mine for over 50 years, he told me he was infertile, but I only sought a soulful companionship. It turned out, however, he had preserved his chastity for another woman his entire life. 01. In the final chapter of my life, I wrote what would be my last collection of essays. Titled The Two of Us, it recounted the story of how we met, came to know each other, fell in love, and my reflections at the end of our journey together. Then Shinjili's diary went viral online. I sat in my wheelchair, bombarded by the relentless flashes of camera lights. Reporters swarmed me, eager to hear my thoughts on Shinjili's posthumous writings. The diary revealed his decades-long secret love for Meng Wan, and his mythic devotion to her. Thus, my book, The Two of Us, turned into a colossal joke. A review on a certain website read, "The fantasies of a pitiful woman, unloved all her life." Xin Yao, pushing my wheelchair, finally navigated us out of the crowd. When everyone had dispersed, she looked at me in silence, her eyes filled with pity and guilt. Xin Yao was Meng Wan's child. When Meng Wan's husband died and her career was on the rise, Shinjili and I ended up adopting her. I raised her as my own. As a child, she was often sick, crying incessantly, and I would hold her all night long, pouring all my love into her. After a long silence, she spoke with an apologetic tone. "Meng Auntie wants to settle back in the country and wishes to be buried with Dad after her death." She added, "Dad had a tough life. Let's offer him some solace in death." I didn't respond, just stared at her intently, as if seeing the young woman before me for the first time. Xin Yao avoided my gaze, and before leaving, she just said, "Mom, think it over." After Xin Yao left, Xiao Wang, who looked after me, indignantly remarked, "Don't listen to her. You and your husband were together for over 50 years, and now in death, you are to be separated, where's the justice in that? An ungrateful wretch. See, even strangers understand, but Xin Yao, whom I raised as my own flesh and blood, does not. 02, Meng Wan did return to the country, and her homecoming as a newly crowned movie star drew significant attention. Her journey was broadcast live. And I saw her weeping profusely at Xin Jili's grave. The headlines described their story as a love across centuries, and many wept for their beautiful love story, and I ended up the ultimate punchline. Meng Wan came to me, knelt down to thank me for caring for Xin Yao, and pleaded for my consent for her to be buried with Xin Jili, Yangqing, Jili, and I missed out on too much time together. If there is an afterlife, I don't want to miss out on him again. I said nothing. Just looked up at Xin Yao. Do you agree? She nodded slightly, then quickly added, Mom, you will always be my mom, it's just that now I have another mom. Xin Yao was always good at weighing pros and cons. Having a movie star as a mother was undoubtedly a boost to her acting career that I couldn't match. I understood her, and her decision didn't surprise me. I was just tired, and said wearily, I agree. Let them be buried together. Let her acknowledge her roots. I agree. I'm tired now. Xiao Wang, please show the guests out. After everyone had left and silence settled, I began to reflect on my life. As one ages, memory fades, and my mind is filled with fragments of the past. I remembered when Xin Jili named Xin Yao. I asked him the meaning of her name, and he smiled and replied, life's journey is long. I hope she can always strive to move forward. It turns out that Xin Yao represents a distant love, the woman who always captivated his heart from a foreign land. I remember before we got married, he told me with guilt on his face that he was infertile and it would be okay if I didn't want to proceed. He must have known how much I wanted my own child, yet he deceived me for so many years. I never doubted that Xin Jili loved me. I just thought he was naturally reticent. The friendship of gentlemen is as mild as water. It is its mildness that makes it enduring. That's why we've been together for so many years. However, the outpouring of love in his will revealed that he wasn't bad at expressing himself. It was just that his love wasn't meant for me. I think I should hate him, but as one grows old, even hatred becomes hard to muster. All I feel is a bit of sadness, slowly rising from the depths of my heart, gradually spreading throughout my body. What I've sought all my life is the truth. In the preface to my prose, I wrote, I'd rather have clear black than a white seen through mist. Yet it turns out my whole life has been a grand lie. If I could do it all over again, this thought is so strong, like a drowning person grasping for a lifeline. Upon awakening, I found myself back to the time when Xin Jili and I had been married for a year. Xin Jili had been shooting back-to-back for several weeks, and now he was so exhausted that he fell asleep on the couch. At that time, he wasn't yet the globally renowned director he would become years later, just a budding young director. He was involved in everything concerning the set and the actors. I knew he was struggling, so even though he forgot our anniversary, I never blamed him. Only when it was almost dark did Xin Jili wake up, looking very tired. The first thing he said was, Yangqing, you shouldn't go to the audition for The Distance. Meng Wan just lost her husband and is raising a child alone. This film is very important for her. The Distance is a film directed by Xin Jili. After its release, it won numerous national awards and made Meng Wan the youngest Best Actress at the Golden Horse Awards. From then on, she received constant invitations from top directors, and her acting career soared. This was the first step Xin Jili laid on Meng Wan's glittering path to stardom, but he knew very well how much I had invested in this film. Meng Wan was the sister his family had adopted. He often said that family should consider each other's needs, so I kept giving in, but this time, I didn't want to step back anymore. I stopped what I was doing and said lightly, this film is also very important to me. He frowned, surprised and somewhat displeased. Yangqing, you have me. There will be plenty of other opportunities, but it's different for Meng Wan. I rolled up my sleeves to reveal the bruises on my arms. I'd been practicing dance at the martial arts studio come rain or shine for 6 months for this role. Xin Jili, what makes you think I should give up? He paused, momentarily surprised, then softened his tone and embraced me. Qing, I know you feel wronged, but Meng Wan is not just anyone. Whether she is just anyone or not, she is the person you've cherished for decades. I let my sleeves fall and said lightly, I want a fair competition with her. Don't you have confidence in her? That night, Xin Jili and I parted on bad terms. Every day, I immersed myself in the martial arts studio, engrossed in the character's emotions. The Distance was a pioneering work in its time, narrating the history of women's growth, later becoming one of the pioneering films in cinematic history. The only flaw was the lackluster martial arts scenes. I loved this film, and if possible, I hoped to make it even more perfect. However, I never expected Shinjili to stoop so low for Meng-wan. The night before the audition, he put sleeping pills in the water and turned off the alarm. Just like that, I missed the audition for Distant. Without my competition, Meng-wanru, just like in her previous life, successfully clinched the role of the female lead. He loved her in such a way that even a person of bright and clear character would stoop to such despicable actions for her. It was quite late when Shinjili finally returned home. I looked up at him, my gaze indifferent, not uttering a word, just quietly observing him. This is the man I have loved for decades, the man I have devoted myself to wholeheartedly. There was no hysteria, no uncontrollable anger, only a lingering chill. Shinjili avoided my gaze, pursed his lips, his tone apologetic. Ching. You will be the female lead in my next film. You've been wrong this time. Whatever you want, I will make it up to you. What could possibly make up for it? Could it make up for the decades of mutual respect, for a lifetime of integrity? Yet, I continued to look at him, neither sad nor happy. He stepped forward, attempting to embrace me, but I simply stepped aside and said calmly, I understand. I lay in bed, staring at the pristine white ceiling, filled with resentment. In my previous life, after missing out on that movie, I adopted Xinyao, and thus gave up a part of my career. When Xinyao grew older, I only took on supporting roles, and the highest award I ever received was for Best Supporting Actress. My gaze gradually hardened. I would not give up. The next day, I went to find Wei Qingshan. He was Shinjili's producer, known as the Golden Duo. With him in my previous life, without either of them, the movie couldn't succeed. More importantly, he was the young master of the Wei family, the major investor in the film. The man in front of me leisurely sipped his coffee. Mrs. Shen, you should not be looking for me. There was a playful look in his eyes, but his tone was unmistakable. A person who does not respect time does not deserve another chance. I lowered my head, and when I looked up again, my expression had changed, my voice grave. I possess a pearl long locked in dust, now cleansed of grime it shines, illuminating the green mountains. This was a line from the movie, a poem read by the female lead Chu Jinyan after a lifetime of hardships. Now I am her, and she is me. Armed with decades of experience, I understand this sentiment of having weathered many storms. I gently skimmed the froth off the tea, and said leisurely, Producer Wei, a true pearl is worth waiting for. Wei Qingshan's expression slowly turned serious, then he smiled. Mrs. Shen is much more interesting than the wooden Mr. Shen. He gave me another chance, and after seeing my martial arts demonstration, he sighed. What a waste to have created Liang when you was born, Yang Qing. This role is meant for you. A month before the movie was set to start filming, Meng Wanru visited with her child. Her purpose this time was to ask me to temporarily take care of her child. Also, because of the care I had provided over the last 6 months, I had grown very fond of Xinyao, and the subsequent adoption followed naturally. Shinjili was cooking in the kitchen, a rare occurrence, only happening when Mengyao visited, because Mengyao appreciated Shinjili's cooking. He was willing to prepare meals for her. Such a grand love. I tried hard to control my face, ensuring it didn't betray a mocking smile, and just watched expressionlessly. Mengyao had a classically beautiful face, and dressed in black during her mourning period, with a white silk flower pinned to her hair and a pale complexion. Her slightly drooping eyebrows evoked a sense of pity in me. She looked at me timidly, the child in her arms crying incessantly. Mengwan had never taken care of a child before. She was all flustered and didn't know what to do. I knew it was because she was holding the child in the wrong position, pressing on the baby's stomach, which was why he was crying. Yet, I just watched coldly from the couch without moving. It was Shinjili who finally took a moment to come out of the kitchen and tenderly took the baby into his arms. In our past life, Shinjili had doted on her like a precious gem. Everyone said they had never seen such a devoted father to his daughter. Sometimes I thought, he loves other people's children so much, what if we had our own? But now, thinking about it just feels ironic. His affection for her was simply because she bore a slight resemblance to the person he loved. During the meal, Mengyao kept glancing at me, her face showing difficulty. She was too embarrassed to speak, and Shinjili, feeling sorry for her, took the initiative. Qing, Mengyao has to go film, and she can't find anyone suitable. Could you take care of Zhozhou for a few days? I slowly swallowed the food in my mouth, took a sip of wine, and said lightly, I'm not available. Shinjili frowned slightly, impatiently saying, Qing, we're all family, don't be petty. He always took it for granted as if I shouldn't have my own things to do. You assume I'm being petty without even asking if I'm busy with something. I looked up at him. He paused, his expression turning ugly. So, what are you busy with? I slowly wiped my mouth and stood up from the table. When the time comes, you'll know. I'm full now. I won't keep you from catching up. I couldn't help but look forward to seeing their expressions on the day of the filming. Ultimately, Shinjili managed to settle everything for Meng Yao, allowing her to focus solely on her role. The day of the filming began on a rainy day. The scenes of far away starting just like this wet day, gloomy as if the sun would never shine again. Shinjili had taken the family car. Although he wasn't late, when he arrived, everyone was already there. During the opening ceremony, amidst the noisy crowd, everyone was puzzled as to why the ceremony wasn't starting even though everyone was present. As the black umbrella was lowered, I looked directly into Shinjili's eyes. He walked forward with a frown, somewhat impatiently. Ching ching. Why are you here? I'm too busy for you today. I brushed off his hand and headed straight towards Wei Qingshan. A flash of admiration crossed the man's eyes. Today's black attire was the classic look of the female lead, and he seemed very pleased. I slightly curled my lips. And Wei Qingshan clapped his hands, immediately silencing the venue. Our leading lady has arrived. Meng Wan suddenly looked up at me, disbelief in her eyes. Shinjili's brows knitted tightly as he scoffed. Qingshan, I know you like to joke, but today is not the time. Wei Qingshan's smile faded, his expression serious. I'm not joking. At this point, Shinjili seemed to realize that nothing could be changed, and through gritted teeth, he murmured, Meng Wan was our mutual choice for the lead. There's no precedent for changing the lead actress suddenly. Wei Qingshan's face turned stern, his tone cooling. Yang Qing is your wife. I can't believe you didn't realize she was the more suitable choice. He stepped forward, patting Shinjili on the shoulder. Shinjili, for a director, art should be the only pursuit, not swayed by these useless emotions. Meng Yao left the opening ceremony in tears. Passing by me, he glared at me fiercely. Originally, Shinjili wanted to chase after her. But the opening ceremony's cannon fired just in time, and he ultimately stopped in his tracks. In the group photo, he stood solemnly in the center while I stood by his side, laughing flamboyantly. My era was about to begin. When the film officially started, the original second female lead suddenly fell ill and gave up on the shoot, and Meng Wan took over her role. It must be said that Shinjili really went out of his way for her, unfortunately. The first scene was a confrontation between me and Meng Wan. The female lead and the second female lead grew up together, and in this scene, the female lead finally learns that the traitor is the second female lead. I stepped forward trembling, looking down at her from a high position. My voice choked several times. Are you telling me it wasn't you? I had no choice, she replied. I continued to advance, my gaze filled with sadness and pain, and then gradually firmed up. A crisp slap. A swift sword flip, pressing against her throat. At this moment, the female lead truly wanted to kill her, to avenge her deceased brother. Thus, my eyes were reddened, filled with murderous intent. Meng Wan failed to catch on to the flow of the scene, completely freezing in place, even forgetting her lines altogether. The character of the second female lead was well-rounded, having competed with beggars for food in her youth. She betrayed the female lead but died for her. She had her own logical development, and playing it well would have been very impressive, but clearly, Meng Wan was not up to the role. Cut. After Shinjili called cut, he hurriedly checked Meng Wan's face for injuries, his expression full of sympathy. He glanced at me with some dissatisfaction. Shinjili was known as the strictest director in the industry, forcing actors to endure repeated takes in the freezing cold without complaint, but Meng Wan was his sole favoritism. He specifically got an ice pack and personally applied it to Meng Wan. His tone as gentle as water. Wan, that was very good just now. Shall we try one more take? I rolled my eyes speechlessly. Good in what way? He really had the gall to say that. Wei Qingshan couldn't hold back and snorted lightly. Tell me, what was good about it? Despite another attempt, Meng Wan was no longer stunned, but her lines were still stuttered. Cut. Shinjili was distressed. But Meng Wan still had tears in her eyes, bravely saying, I can do it. Frankly, if she used her current acting in the play, this scene would have been passed long ago. Honestly, by the end, my hand was numb from the slapping. Meng Wan, with a swollen face, looked at me with deep resentment. Wei Qingshan sat back in his chair, not even bothering to look up. If you could, we wouldn't need to shoot so many takes, Miss Meng. You might not be tired, but everyone else is very tired. The set was full of working people. none of whom had the patience to accompany her in this show of professionalism. Wei Qingshan ran out of patience with Meng Wan's scene and went out of town to discuss investments. Over the following days, Shen Jili painstakingly coached Meng Wan's acting. After a few days, the shooting progress barely got back on track. It came to the female lead's first standout scene, entering the fray with a long spear, setting a classic moment in film. For this shot, I prepared extensively, practicing daily with the stunt coordinator, but the scene Shen Jili eventually presented, it was thoroughly mediocre. People often say that the camera lens has a certain warmth, and under Shen Jili's lens, Meng Wan always appeared as untouchable and serene as a saint, exuding a steadfast beauty. In my past life, I never believed it. I thought Shen Jili loved me, even comforting myself that it was merely because Meng Wan looked better on camera, because he loved her. I could never measure up to Meng Wan in his shots, but why, after giving so much, do I still lose to this elusive love? After several intense scenes with long spears, I was completely exhausted. Let's stop here for today, we'll reshoot tomorrow. After everyone had left, Shen Jili came over to me, frowning, seemingly puzzled, and asked, "Are you not satisfied? We've already spent too much time on this scene." I suddenly stood up, stepped forward, almost falling due to my overstrained legs. Shen Jili moved to support me, but I shrugged off his hand, saying coldly, "Shen Jili, Distant Lands is your film, and this scene is a highlight for the female lead. Ask yourself, are you satisfied with today's shots?" Shen Jili remained silent. Eventually, I was too tired, and before leaving, I left him with one remark: "If you can get it right, I don't mind if you pretend I'm Meng Wan for a while." His expression froze on his face, and I whispered in his ear, "Do you really think you've hidden it well?" I don't know if Shen Jili took my words to heart that night, or if it was because Wei Qingshan had returned to the set. Nevertheless, the scene was finally completed perfectly. Despite many setbacks, the long-term filming of intense martial arts scenes had severely strained my arms, but the set waits for no one, and I had to grit my teeth and continue shooting. So much so that when the wire rig failed, I didn't even have the strength to cling to anything. As I fell, I saw Shen Jili running towards Meng Wan without any hesitation. How could I not be heartbroken? I had known him for over 50 years, he was the person I relied on the most, yet I was never his first choice. When I hit the ground, I instinctively protected my face, an actor's livelihood. Distant Lands was my first step to changing my life, and I didn't want to lose this opportunity. I said I didn't care. But I was still caught in my obsessions. Everything gradually went dark, and when I woke up, I was in the hospital. Wei Qingshan was sitting by my bed, looking exhausted. He sighed in relief when he saw me awake. After making sure I was okay, his voice rose. "Yang Qing, how many lives do you think you have? Didn't the stunt coordinator teach you to protect the back of your head when falling?" I knew I had been reckless and gave him a guilty smile. He got even angrier, pursed his lips, and finally let out a deep sigh. "Yang Qing, nothing is more important than your life. Rest well. You will always be the leading lady of Distant Lands." It wasn't until the evening that Shen Jili came to visit me. His concern seemed genuine as he looked at me, but I still felt sidelined. I had once thought he treated Meng Wan like a sister, believing it was natural for a brother to dote on his sister. But that wasn't the case. I've never brought up the reason for our divorce because, after over 50 years together, even seeing the journal in front of me, I could hardly believe it. 50 years, thousands of days and nights, he was the person by my side. At the moment of life and death, he abandoned me, and only now have I finally given up. A surge of belated anger nearly overwhelmed me. I haven't experienced such intense emotional fluctuations in a long time. Thoughts that I had deeply suppressed surged forth like madness. His diary read, "Wan, I am trying to love someone else. Qing is a good girl. Loving her is the best outcome for both of us, but I have failed. It turns out love cannot be forced." I often questioned myself, wondering if I really am so unworthy of love. It has been over 50 years, more than half of a lifetime. Was there ever a moment during that time when he truly had feelings for me? Yet I ultimately asked nothing because it no longer mattered. It really didn't matter anymore. "Shen Jili, after we finish filming Distant Places, let's get a divorce." Shen Jili looked at me incredulously, took a step forward, and grabbed my hand. "Yang Qing, I can explain." I struggled to free myself from his grasp. The touch always reminded me of my ludicrous life. A nurse walked in, frowning at his expression. "What is your relationship with the patient?" She fell and hit the back of her head. Suffered a concussion. If it had been any worse, you might not have been able to see her anymore. Only now did Shinjili seem to realize the seriousness of my injury. Ching. I didn't know. His tone was halting, filled with regret and fear. He hurriedly moved forward to check my injuries. His face twisted in pain when he saw the bruises. In the days that followed, Shinjili stayed by my side, regardless of my cold words. Sometimes, I would gaze at him, slightly lost in thought. In a past life, I underwent a surgery, and Shinjili postponed all his work to care for me for a whole year, which made me mistakenly believe he loved me. Love, however, cannot withstand comparisons. In front of Mengwan, I was always his second choice. 12. I recuperated in the hospital for a week. We could not delay filming Distant Places any longer, due to his guilt. Shinjili followed me closely after wrapping up the day's shoot. He seemed to think that my mention of divorce was just something said in anger. Thinking he could easily coax me, Mengwan looked at Shinjili several times, but this time he firmly ignored her. He said Mengwan was just his sister, who had been frail since childhood, and he always thought to take extra care of her. He also said that we were married and that I was his wife, and he would try to love me more. I calculated the dates in the diary. This was the time he was trying to love me. Shinjili. Love cannot be forced. His eyes struggled for a moment, but eventually settled into a faint smile. Yongqing, I will treat you well. Since he was willing, I naturally had to seize this opportunity, the chance for director Shen to personally guide me in acting. After the makeup artist finished with me, only he and I were left in the makeup room. This scene was where Chu Jinyan, emotionally disturbed and temporarily led astray, debates with the monk Lung Ning, how to be charming but not vulgar. To smile without losing dignity, I was honestly unsure. The woman in the mirror, with bright red lips and curled hair, dressed in a figure-hugging Chong Sam, did not look like me. I naturally have a stern face, with somewhat sharp eyes and brows. Such a seductive makeup was rarely tried by me. With a graceful sway, I stood up, grabbed Shinjili's tie, and pulled him closer. Just inches apart, I breathed softly into his ear. You say the sea of suffering is boundless, why not personally liberate me? Master, my lips unintentionally brushed his cheek, our breaths intertwining. Shinjili's breath was briefly chaotic, a flush spreading up from his ears. In my previous life, I never acted out of line in front of Shinjili. Books say that men who are incapable in certain aspects tend to be more sensitive, so I always carefully protected his self-esteem. I suppressed all physical desires, wishing only for a spiritual connection with him. In the end, it was all a joke. Director Shen. What do you think? I pushed Shinjili away, sat down on a chair, lit a cigarette, and asked indifferently. Through the swirling smoke, I saw Shinjili's murky eyes. After a long pause, his voice strained. Ching. After Distant Lands wraps up, let's be together properly. I will try hard to love you. Okay, how ridiculous. Why has loving me become something that requires effort? Unfortunately, I do not need this charity of love. I slowly exhaled a puff of smoke, my lips curling into a half-smile. But, Director Shen, I regret it. A man who have a sexual dysfunction is hardly a match for me. Unfortunately, someone happened to be passing by the door and overheard the conversation, rushing away quickly. Ironically, that person was quite a gossip, spreading the news of Shinjili's incompetence throughout the entire film industry. During the subsequent filming of Distant Places, everyone would exchange glances secretly when they thought no one was watching. Under Shinjili's stern demeanor, Distant Places was eventually completed. After coordinating the follow-up promotions, I handed him the drafted divorce papers. I spoke earnestly. Shinjili, if you truly like Mengwan, then strive for her. Don't miss out on a lifetime's chance again. Shinjili, this is my final gift to you, freedom. At one point, I detested Shinjili so much that I could have killed him when I first learned the truth. But after more than 50 years together, our relationship had become too complex to define clearly. In our marriage, besides love and children, Shinjili had shown me all the respect and care I could ask for. Letting him go was also a way of freeing myself. However, Shinjili just quietly looked at me, his expression somewhat bewildered. I sighed, feeling that people always seem to do inexplicable things at the wrong times. Take care, Shinjili. After putting down the divorce papers, I got up and left the cafe. It was March, and the air was still chilly, the wind bringing a biting cold. I felt relieved, ready to live the rest of my life for myself. After Distant Places wrapped up, I took some time off to step out of Chu Jinyan's life. During that period, Wei Qingshan came to see me. inviting me to star in the movie The Prime of Life. The young master of the Wei family, tired of producing, was ready to act. If I remember correctly, Meng-wan gained international recognition with this film. I vividly recall her walking slowly down the red carpet, arm in arm with Shin Jili under the flashing lights. The bitterness and resentment that surged in my heart then stayed with me for many years thereafter. I accepted the invitation and went to the desert, unknowingly spending 3 years there. During those 3 years, I cut off almost all contact with the outside world, fully immersing myself in the role. The director of The Prime of Life was notoriously difficult, and no one knew when the filming would end. There were times when I truly believed the film would never wrap up. When not filming, I would find a secluded corner to secretly cry, until one day, I saw Wei Qingshan with red-rimmed eyes. Then the scene changed. It was me and Wei Qingshan, hugging each other tightly, sobbing, exhausted from crying. We would lie in the vast desert, gazing at the myriad stars above. The universe is so vast, and humans so insignificant. Thinking this way, it seemed like all past grievances no longer mattered. Wei Qingshan always had a way of praising me, telling me how well I performed that day. He complimented my complexion, my eloquence, and even my unwashed hair, finding something special in it. Although I repeatedly told myself that I was fine and that Shin Jili's disinterest was his loss, I would occasionally fall into endless self-doubt, until Wei Qingshan's daily compliments gradually made me feel not so terrible after all. When Wei Qingshan confessed his feelings, my heart raced. I suppose this at least means I don't hate him. I accepted his confession, and those unfulfilled pasts finally dissipated into the air. It turns out that time really can erase everything, like pain, like love and hatred. After wrapping up the shoot 4 years, stepping out of the desert felt like entering another world. Oh right, Distant Land won a major domestic film award, but the jury couldn't find me despite trying all their connections. Thus, through a twist of fate, I became the only actress in history who refused to accept an award, which inadvertently boosted my fame. I heard that Shin Jili and Meng-wan got married, then somehow divorced. Meng-wan came to see me, her face unable to hide the fatigue of the past few years. Zhong is a difficult child, and I think she has learned that well. In this love triangle, Meng-wan always seemed like an outsider. She never asked for anything. It was always Shin Jili who planned everything for her unilaterally. In the end, all she could do was cry at Shin Jili's grave, saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't know about your love for me." But did she really not know? During all the days and nights she spent with him, did she really not know that Shin Jili loved her? As I dropped 2 sugar cubes into my cup, I suddenly asked, "Do you like Shin Jili?" Meng-wan paused, gazing sadly at the spoon in her hand. How could I not love him? Then she suddenly smiled. "But Yang-qing, I'm not like you. I love myself more." After Meng-wan left, I sat alone in the cafe for a long time, until Wei Qingshan, smiling, ran towards me through the rain, seemingly dispelling all the gloom. So in the end, Meng-wan is just a selfish person. She might like Shin Jili, but she loves herself more. So for so many years, she could comfortably enjoy Shin Jili's affection, pretending to be unaware of everything. I don't want to judge what's right or wrong, because it no longer matters. The day I moved my luggage out of the house, Shin Jili stood there with teary eyes, gripping my suitcase tightly. Children are always like this, thinking that if they hold on tightly to something, it won't leave. I sighed, looked at him, and said, "Shin Jili, let's go somewhere. Let's just consider it a closure." I took him to a Taoist temple on Mount Sanqing, a place I always wanted to visit with Shin Jili in our past life to fulfill a vow, but it never happened. In the misty morning, we climbed the blue stone steps in silence. "Shin Jili, do you know, 99 steps, I once knocked my head on the ground every 3 steps, making my way slowly." Back then, when Shin Jili was abroad filming and encountered thugs, his life hanging by a thread, and I was powerless, all I could do was believe in the gods. Shin Jili looked puzzled, but I continued, "I once really liked you, so much that I gave up a lot." His expression was complex. He stuttered, trying to say something, but finally just called out softly, "Qing." "Shin Jili, to me, you are just like a child clinging to something lost, initially reluctant to let go, but soon to forget." I walked a few more steps. These were words I originally couldn't bring myself to say. Admitting that someone doesn't love oneself is a blow to one's pride, but now I've come to terms with it. Shin Jili took a big step and grabbed my hand. "Qing, that's not it. You're not me. What you're saying is just speculation." I suddenly laughed. "Jili, if I had never wanted to divorce you, if everything had gone smoothly as you wished, Living our lives together, would you have loved me? He was silent for a long time, his expression pained, but he still murmured softly, rather than speaking to me. It seemed more like he was reassuring himself. No, Ching, I do love you. I will realize that I love you. When we reached the summit, we encountered a Taoist priest who stopped us and offered to read our fortune for free. He looked at me, squinting his eyes, exuding an air of mystery. The lady comes from afar, doesn't she? I just smiled without speaking. Wanderers like him always tend to speak in riddles. The man gently shook the bell in his hand. It sounded as if coming from a distance. Shinjili and I stood at the center of a whirlwind, as the future swept towards us. From the male protagonist's perspective at the end, it seemed Shinjili had a very long dream, where he and Qingqing grew old together, mutually supporting each other through life. He remembered the day the will was exposed. Qingqing looked bewildered, surrounded by a crowd. Utterly helpless, a dull pain echoed in his heart. He rushed forward wanting to deny it, but it was all in vain as he tried to push through the crowd. He saw Yongqing kowtow on 99 steps for his safe return. He saw their family of 3, holding hands and walking on the lawn under the afternoon sun. At that time, his happiness was tangible, but such substantial happiness made him wildly imaginative. Shinjili studied film, and films are made of fictional stories. So he also crafted a distant dream for himself. He did like Meng Wan, but it was merely the flutter of an initial crush. Often things unattained seem more precious. Thus, under his day-to-day fantasizing, this affection became tragically deep, and he could no longer see the people beside him. Awakening from his great dream was like being reborn. 25-year-old Yongqing stood in front of him, head bowed, chanting scriptures, but the person she prayed for protection was no longer him. Shinjili, when he saw Yongqing again, it was in the film industry, surrounded by people. She stepped down from a high place, no unnecessary adornments, for she was a synonym for light itself. Yet, upon seeing the man beside her, she smiled softly and took his arm. She was meant to shine brightly. It was just her love that blinded him. Shinjili sipped his drink with a bitter smile and walked into the night. He could have lived a very happy life, but he ultimately destroyed it himself. From then on, in his long life, he was alone. Story 2, the year was filled with sheer resentment. Whenever I held hands with my husband, he would coldly shake me off. It wasn't until after his death that a barrage of messages appeared before my eyes. The male protagonist is so stubborn, never admitting he has a skin starvation disorder. Now, he has perished in his unfulfilled desires. The male protagonist kept a diary. One glance by the female protagonist could embarrass him back to life. The diary is hidden in the 4th drawer from the left in his study. I opened the drawer and, to my surprise, there really was a diary. Beneath the diary, there was also a medical record. It belonged to Pei Wang, diagnosed with severe skin starvation disorder. The doctor's note read, "Physical contact with loved ones can alleviate the condition." The messages commented, "His illness is as endless as Qin Shi Huang swinging on a swing. You should take some medicine." Male protagonist, "Too bad he's a strong man, wouldn't touch the female protagonist even if sparks flew. Marrying Pei Wang was an accident. My father's company went bankrupt, and everyone around us scattered." Out of nowhere, Pei Wang swooped in and acquired the failing company. In tears of gratitude, "My father offered me to Pei Wang as a gift, but Pei Wang gave my father 30 million and married me officially. I was forced to break up with my then-boyfriend. For the next 3 years, Pei Wang and I respected each other but lived separate lives. He was cold and abstinent by day. At night, he would sneak into my bed while I slept. He did nothing but lay rigidly beside me. I was content not having to consummate our marriage, until I saw him sleeping with my skirt in his arms. Frightened, I slapped him. Pei Wang, you're disgusting." His face turned deathly pale, and he fled. 3 days later, Pei Wang slit his wrists in the bathtub. Pei Wang's family doctor said, "Mr. Pei suffered greatly before his death. The warm water prevented his wrists from scabbing over, and his condition, when unalleviated, made him lose all hope for life. Mr. Pei always found his illness repulsive and asked me to keep it a secret from you." I opened Pei Wang's diary. "My wife slapped me. I was so happy. But then I woke up and realized it was just a dream. My wife smiled at me today. I'll reward myself with her photo. Xiaoning slapped me. I wanted to kiss her hand, but she wants to divorce me. My world is ending." I closed the diary. The messages crazily scrolled before my eyes. "Pei Wang's spirit has come to say goodbye to the female lead. Too bad she can't see him. She only knows she will never see Pei Wang alive again. Pei Wang sees her crying, wants to hug her. but now he's just a wisp of a soul, unable to embrace his love. I stood up, wanting to embrace Pei Wang, but all that remained in my arms was a wisp of breeze. When I opened my eyes again, I was in the familiar bedroom, but the bedding was not the usual plain colors, but bright red silk sheets. The messages slid past. Did the female protagonist travel back to their wedding night? Are they redoing the story? Hopefully. The ending won't be the same, I remembered. This was the point where Pei Wang and I had a wedding in the church with no vows and no guests. After the wedding, Pei Wang sent me home, leaving me with a black card and his indifferent back. The company needs me to work overtime. Take care of yourself. At that time, I felt, to him, work was more important than me, and I was just a canary he had bought with money. From that day on, we embarked on a marriage that was in name only for 3 years. I hadn't yet taken off my wedding dress and high heels. Dressed like this, I went after Pei Wang. It was gloomy outside, and it was raining. I hailed a taxi and arrived at Pei Wang's company. I looked up at the towering 68-story office building before me, a business empire built from scratch by Pei Wang. But he was so foolish, for just because of a word from me, he gave up his life of power and influence. I walked into the office building, but I didn't even know where his office was. The receptionist asked me who I was looking for. I said, Pei Wang. She smiled at me. You need an appointment to see President Pei. I smiled back. I'm his wife. Pei Wang arrived quickly. Upon seeing me, he approached calmly and composed. The screen displayed. When the male protagonist received the call at the reception, he incredulously asked several times, who is looking for me? My wife, before he came down. He even sprayed some perfume on himself and kept fixing his hair in front of his phone screen. The male protagonist meeting his wife is like a peacock spreading its feathers. Pei Wang stood before me, his demeanor cool and detached. What brings you here? He was dressed in an impeccably tailored, luxurious suit, his hair perfectly groomed. His face was devastatingly handsome, more refined and beautiful than AI modeling. I moved into Pei Wang's embrace and wrapped my arms around his waist. My ear against his chest, I could hear the clear beating of his heart. This was Pei Wang. Pei Wang, alive and real. Do you know how much I've wanted to see you? All the grievances poured out at that moment, my tears wetting the shirt on his chest. Pei Wang's composed facade shattered, his voice trembled slightly. What happened? I hugged Pei Wang even tighter. I missed you so much, but he pushed me away. He turned, straightening his clothes. Let's go upstairs to talk. I stood still. He looked down and saw my bare feet. Pei Wang hesitated for a moment, then lifted me up with one arm. The screen went wild with comments. Wow, is the male protagonist king? Who else would do a one-arm princess carry? During the hug, the male protagonist must have been tired from sticking out his butt, afraid of scaring the girl away. It's the first time the male protagonist is so close to the female protagonist. He must think she smells so good. He's ecstatic inside. I never expected Pei Wang to have this side. In Pei Wang's office, located on the top floor with a river view, he placed me on the sofa, heated some water, and wiped my feet with a towel. He kneeled in front of me, obedient like a big dog. I lifted his chin with my toe, forcing him to look me in the eye. Pei Wang, carrying me upstairs, wiping my feet. Being so kind to me, what for? Pei Wang stared blankly at my lips moving, then coldly turned his head away. The screen commented, the male protagonist just can't handle it. His skin is thirsty, especially on rainy days. I'm going to die of anxiety. Male protagonist, go kiss her, hug her, tell her that even bitter fruits are fruits. Is it wrong to want to be with you forever? I turned over, pinning Pei Wang down, gripping his chin and demanding, did you marry me because you like me? Not really. But his body desperately wanted to be in contact with me. I let go of Pei Wang and stood up to leave. I was waiting for Pei Wang to stop me. Sure enough, he grabbed my wrist. You're not wearing shoes. I'll have someone go buy some. I stepped forward, standing barefoot on Pei Wang's feet. Then I touched his lips. His lips felt hard, but they were soft to the kiss. I whispered to him, if you want me to keep kissing you, you have to tell me you like me. I know how tempting a lover's touch can be to someone who craves skin contact, almost to a deadly extent. If Pei Wang wants sweetness, he has to give me what I want. Pei Wang's veins throbbed at his temples. His wristband heart monitor beeped an alarm. I pressed my advantage, pinning him down on the sofa. Why would you leave me alone on our wedding night? I felt aggrieved. If Pei Wang loves me, why won't he say it? Let go of me first. His voice trembled, trying to push me away. But he was too weak to move me. A gentleman of integrity, right, keeping his composure, right. I pinned him down on the sofa, Then I started to undo my wedding dress buttons. We were almost facing each other honestly, but Pei Wang turned his head away. Ningxi, you don't need to test me like this. I'll wait until you're willing. I scoffed and slapped him. Pei Wang, are you not capable? Pei Wang not capable. He was very much capable, a bright red slap mark on his face, tears swirled in his eyes. Ningxi, I know you hate me. If slapping me makes you a bit happier, then you can do anything to me. I silently watched Pei Wang. Was he trying to seduce me? The comments said, even if the female lead stripped naked in front of him, Pei Wang would just ask if she was cold. Sorry, he's not the type to hurt the woman he loves. Don't reward him. He says no with his lips, but he's thrilled inside. Why does his wristband keep alarming? I'm worried he might suddenly die. I sighed and let go of Pei Wang. I wiped the sweat from his forehead. Your heart rate is off the charts. Let's stop teasing and go eat, shall we? He nodded expressionlessly. Then he took off his wristband. Sorry, there's a problem with the wristband, the comments said. This smart wristband is a hot new product developed by his company, marketed for its reliability. Why is the big boss undermining his own product? This strong guy behaves only when his wife is gone. Pei Wang had someone buy me a set of clothes. After changing, we went to the downstairs Western restaurant to eat. Pei Wang and I rarely had the chance to say, "You leave me alone on our wedding night." I felt aggrieved. If Pei Wang loves me, why won't he say it? Let go of me first. His voice trembled, trying to push me away. But he was too weak to move me, a gentleman of integrity, right, keeping his composure, right. I pinned him down on the sofa, then I started to undo my wedding dress buttons. We were almost facing each other honestly, but Pei Wang turned his head away. Ningxi, you don't need to test me like this. I'll wait until you're willing. I scoffed and slapped him. Pei Wang, are you not capable? Pei Wang not capable. He was very much capable, a bright red slap mark on his face, tears swirled in his eyes. Ningxi, I know you hate me. If slapping me makes you a bit happier, then you can do anything to me. I silently watched Pei Wang. Was he trying to seduce me? The comments said, even if the female lead stripped naked in front of him, Pei Wang would just ask if she was cold. Sorry, he's not the type to hurt the woman he loves. Don't reward him. He says no with his lips, but he's thrilled inside. Why does his wristband keep alarming? I'm worried he might suddenly die. I sighed and let go of Pei Wang. I wiped the sweat from his forehead. Your heart rate is off the charts. Let's stop teasing and go eat, shall we? He nodded expressionlessly. Then he took off his wristband. Sorry, there's a problem with the wristband, the comments said. This smart wristband is a hot new product developed by his company, marketed for its reliability. Why is the big boss undermining his own product? This strong guy behaves only when his wife is gone. Pei Wang had someone buy me a set of clothes. After changing, we went to the downstairs Western restaurant to eat. Pei Wang and I rarely had the chance to sit down and have a proper meal together. Once, to undermine him, his competitors called him a thief. As a child, he stole swill from restaurants to stave off hunger and expired bread from convenience stores to fill his stomach. Even as an adult, he never ate 3 regular meals a day, because no one ever taught him how to love himself. Pei Wang. Let's eat together from now on, I said, pretending it was just an offhand remark. He paused while cutting his steak, then nodded restrainedly. Sometimes I have meetings, handle documents. I might not be able to join you for meals, but I can make time for you otherwise. I put down my knife and fork, smiling warmly as I responded, all right, then I'll eat whenever you eat from now on. After all, I have a stomach condition, and the doctor said that if I don't eat regularly, it will get worse. Pei Wang seemed taken aback by my response. The overwhelming feeling of not being in control made him anxious. He began to pick at the hangnails around his fingernails until they bled. I took a deep breath and held his hand. Pei Wang, could you please take care of yourself a bit more? My grip on his wrist tightened. It shouldn't be like this between us, me taking a step forward and you taking 100 steps back. Avoiding won't get you a wife, or my kisses, if you want that. Then accompany me for meals every day. Great, she's straightforward, there's hope for us. As for the heroine, out of 100 points, she only scores 22, the remaining 78, the male lead spoils her with. Pei Wang looked into my eyes as if searching for a reason to refuse. After a long pause, he averted his gaze and nodded almost imperceptibly. As we left the restaurant, we ran into Fu Tan, my ex-boyfriend of 3 years, whom I was supposed to marry. However, he had a severe heart condition, and doctors said he wouldn't live past 30. At that time, my family was bankrupt. Fu Tan, being the powerless second son of the Fu family, had no influence, and my father sold me off to Pei Wang. Fu Tan had locked himself in his dark studio, unseen for a long time. After not seeing him for months, he had lost a lot of weight. The once dazzlingly handsome man now had a lifeless look in his eyes. His gaze fell on me and Pei Wang, filled with boundless sorrow. Ningxi, have you fallen for Pei Wang so quickly? What about the vows we made? What about the paths we walked together? Fu Tan clutched his chest, struggling to breathe. I supported him and searched for his medication. Calm down, you're having an attack. He pulled me into his embrace, his voice choked with emotion. Just hold me, and I'll be alright. Xiaoxi, can you wait for me? I will become your hero and rescue you from Pei Wang. I will take control of the Fu family and make you the lady of the house. From then on, no one can tear us apart. I was held in Fu Tan's arms, exchanging a look with Pei Wang, who stood beside us with a dark, stormy expression in his eyes. Comments streamed in. What's this? Does the second male lead also have a skin hunger issue? Needs the heroine's embrace to feel better. I hate these White Lotus types. It's over. Seeing the look in the male lead's eyes. The heroine's going to have a tough time when they get home. The male lead is crying. Come on heroine, comfort him, he needs a hug. Fu Tan stared at me blankly, lost in thought. In his previous life, just as he said, he quickly overthrew his elder brother from power. Once he gained authority, he went head-to-head with Pei Wang in the business world. Pei Wang's abilities are far from ordinary. The two of them exchanged blows, neither willing to give in. But I didn't want to be an object fought over by two men anymore. I pushed Fu Tan away. Then I walked step by step towards Pei Wang and took his hand. Let's go home. At the underground parking lot, Pei Wang, who had been silent for a while, finally spoke. Now that we're alone, you don't have to pretend anymore. You should go to Fu Tan. The audience commented, this is what a true partner looks like, even willing to accept a rival with such grace. If you really went to him, you wouldn't be happy. Weren't you just burning with jealousy when you saw her hugging the other guy? I was shocked as I looked at Pei Wang. His face was expressionless, delicate, and cold. Tear stains still marked his cheeks, making him look vulnerable like a big dog. I couldn't help but laugh and mischievously poked his cheek. Pei Wang, are you jealous? Pei Wang stubbornly turned his head away. No, really not. No, Pei Wang was really too beautiful. His jealous and angry look made it irresistible to tease him. I tiptoed and kissed his lips. Are you still angry? I asked him softly. Pei Wang breathed heavily. I'm not angry. I chuckled lightly and kissed him more intensely. The audience commented, in the past, he relied on cold showers when he was upset. Today, he finally found relief. Can the male lead understand this kiss? Isn't he gasping for air? He's almost suffocating. Pei Wang was inexperienced and had never felt the pleasure of intimate contact with a loved one. I gently patted his cheek. Breathe. Only then did Pei Wang seem to awaken, taking deep breaths. Then he eagerly leaned in for more kisses, but I pressed my finger against his lips. Pei Wang, can you tell me now if you're upset because of Fu Tan? Pei Wang looked like a wronged puppy. He buried his head in my neck, his voice muffled. I am upset. Very upset. I stroked his soft hair. Then tell me, what do you want me to do? I want you to only look at me, hold me, kiss me. I held Pei Wang's face seriously and told him, see, isn't it much better to express your thoughts when you're angry and don't tell me? I can't make you feel better. If you're sad and keep it inside, I won't know to comfort you. Pei Wang nodded groggily, like a child dazed by happiness. I pinched his cheek. Good boy, baby. The audience went wild. Turns out you don't need to go to Panhong Garden to train a dog. The female lead is the master. Please release a dog training manual. Will the male lead call her wife or master from now on? Me. After getting caught in the rain, I came home and developed a fever. The doctor gave me a fever-reducing injection, and I drifted off into a heavy sleep. Pei Wang gazed at the sleeping figure before him, as if he were worshipping Aphrodite on Mount Olympus, the goddess. Betrothed to the ugly and flawed Hephaestus by Zeus, Pei Wang felt that he, a broken man, was unworthy of such a divine woman. On this damp, rainy day, his skin felt as though countless ants were gnawing at his flesh and sanity. He was despicable, shameless, and vile. He thought to himself, since Ningxi is asleep, she won't see this disgusting side of me. He curled up on the adjacent sofa, indulging himself. Finally, Pei Wang regained his composure. He stood up and straightened his clothes. In the full-length mirror, he looked restrained, proper, and gently warm. This version of Pei Wang wasn't filthy or repulsive, but when his eyes met mine, Pei Wang's face turned deathly pale. when did you wake up? He asked. The comments flashed. She's been awake since you called her name. Oh no, I've spent money. Why is it all just talk? Don't just focus on yourself. Remember the female lead too. I looked at Pei Wang with a playful smile. What were you just doing? Why is your face so red? Exercising my body, he replied. I barely held back a laugh. So, when will you let me check the results? Pei Wang dashed out of the bedroom, fleeing the scene. The comments continued. What kind of man are you? I'm in a hurry. Can you two just go to the bedroom already? I sighed. Pei Wang really was difficult to win over. As the illness slowly receded like pulling silk, Pei Wang stayed home to care for me for several days. Throughout, I tried every trick in the book, but he never lost control in front of me. The comments said, the male lead, to hide his illness, ignored doctor's advice and took lots of medicine. The male lead is too insecure. He can't accept his illness. He desperately wants to be perfect in front of the female lead. Recently, the second male lead has been provoking him, and in anger, the male lead took him to a villa in the suburbs. He's been irritable from the medication these past few days, but he wants to be a good boy in front of the female lead, so he vents his anger on the second male lead instead. Watching the comments, I fell into deep thought. Pei Wang, in his past life, had shown strong possessiveness towards me. At a business gathering, I met Fu Tan. Fu Tan shattered a wine glass, spilling red wine on me. As Fu Tan helped me clean the stain, I glanced at Pei Wang, who had a stern face, and I politely declined Fu Tan's help. Unexpectedly, that smile drove Pei Wang mad. He and Fu Tan started fighting, almost as if he was fighting for his life, pinning Fu Tan to the ground and hitting him. This side of Pei Wang was too obsessive and extreme. Pei Wang should be in the study at this time. When I pushed open the door, a sickly sweet scent hit me. Pei Wang was at his desk, working on documents. What's that smell in the room? I asked. He hesitated in his response. The comments explained. It's medicine for his skin condition. The oral medicine he used before no longer works. Only this inhalable type can alleviate his symptoms now. This kind of medicine can become addictive if used too much. I frowned and opened the windows of the study. Fresh air entered, clearing much of the scent. I walked over to Pei Wang. He sat motionless in his chair, with documents still laid out on his desk. I looked down at Pei Wang's suit pants. Is this how Pei Wang handles his business? His energy really is boundless. With a playful smile, I embraced him, their fingers interlocked. Is the medicine effective, or am I? What did you say? I asked him again. Why didn't you tell me when you were sick? Pei Wang's blood seemed to stop flowing. You already know. I'm sorry, really sorry. I know I'm disgusting. I am like an unworthy dog, with such a disgusting disease. Don't leave me. Don't divorce me. Pei Wang's emotions teetered on the brink of collapse, fragile as if they would shatter at a touch. I seriously said to him, Pei Wang, you are beautiful. I really like your appearance. Your waist and abdominal muscles also feel great to touch. I wrapped my arms around his waist, and, I don't mind being close to you. Pei Wang looked at me in shock. You, like me. I kissed his fingertips. If I didn't like you, why would I kiss you and hold you? But, Fu Tan said you love him more. If you lose interest in me later, you will abandon me. Pei Wang's tone carried a grievance he himself did not notice. I pinched his earlobe. Are you so afraid I'll leave you and abandon you? Are you afraid that if I go, there will be no one to treat your illness? He spoke hesitantly. I like you, not just out of physical desire. I've always known. I've read Pei Wang's diary. We attended the same middle and high schools. He was that odd one in class who wrote his homework with a pencil. Classmates mocked him for not even being able to afford a notebook. Yet, he was always first in every exam. During my chaotic and messy school days, I dated one boy after another, but never noticed that a quiet, subtle gaze had always been watching me. Pei Wang, why would you like someone as messed up as me? I eagerly looked at Pei Wang, hoping he would compliment me more, but after a long struggle, he only managed 6 words. You're not bad, you're very good, the comments said. The male lead is obsessed with the female lead because she has captured his heart. To be fair, although the female lead is a bit of a flirt, she is kind-hearted and attractive, and such a brooding boy is easily smitten by a blazing sun like her. Woo 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 woo. The sisters at the scene leave a string of mysterious numbers, 999969. Just as the atmosphere was getting ambiguous, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered the call. On the other end was Fu Tan's weak voice. Xiaoxi, where are you? Pei Wang is too dangerous. Pack up, I'll take you away. Pei Wang beneath me instantly turned pale. I asked Fu Tan. What happened? I was locked in his remote mountain villa by Pei Wang. Today I took advantage of a lapse in the guard and hid in the villa's basement. There is a pitch-black iron cage there. The walls are covered with your photos. The earliest one is from your first year of high school. The latest one is from a month ago. He has been watching you. I looked at Pei Wang with questioning eyes. Is this true? Pei Wang shook his head helplessly, his eyes filled with panic. I chuckled. That's scary. From the other end of the phone came Fu Tan's voice. Don't come here, let me go. It seemed Pei Wang's man had captured Fu Tan. I hung up the phone, looking at Pei Wang. Do you have anything to explain to me? Pei Wang's eyes were full of defeat and despair, crying and then laughing. He held me tight in his arms, fiercely saying, Ningxi, are you afraid of me, despise me, and want to leave me? I'm telling you, it's impossible. Even in death, you'll have to stay with me in the same urn. Liar, in our past life, you clearly left me alone. What do you plan to do with me then? Hide me away so that in the future I can only talk to you. Pei Wang shook his head as he heard this, his emotions beginning to crumble. No, that's not it. You are the sun. You won't rise and set just for me, nor will you love only me. One day, you will leave me. The comments said, the male lead is so pitiful, just like my dog who has separation anxiety. If the female lead were like in the past life, not showing any real feelings towards the male lead, he, having never experienced better, would obviously find it easier to accept her departure. It's like someone who has seen the light can never again endure the darkness. I hugged him. I'm not some sun. I'm a living person. You are so good, so likable. How could I not love you and just leave you behind? Pei Wang in the past life wasn't bad or unlikable. He just hid his feelings too deeply. It was I who didn't see my own heart clearly. That's why we missed out on so many years. 12. I originally wanted to persuade Pei Wang to let go of Fu Tan, but every word and action of mine, in Pei Wang's eyes, would be greatly magnified. Thus, this matter had to be put on hold for now, but soon. The situation took a turn. I accompanied Pei Wang to a charity gala. Fu Tan, who was supposed to be confined in the villa, was mingling among the crowd, radiant as before. When he saw me and Pei Wang, he even came over to greet us. A few company CEOs around us, thinking we didn't know each other, even introduced Fu Tan to us. Mr. Fu has recently taken over the family business and is now the head of the Fu family. This moment came much earlier than in the past life when Fu Tan overthrew the elder brother of the Fu family. The look of vulnerability had completely vanished from Fu Tan's eyes. His gaze towards me was like that of a hunter eyeing his prey. Pei Wang pulled me behind him, blocking Fu Tan's view of me. Mr. Fu, if you keep staring at someone else's wife, your eyes might be gouged out. Fu Tan looked at Pei Wang with a smirk. Are you talking about Ningxi? She's just under your temporary care. And one day she will return to my side. Saying this, Fu Tan's eyes lingered on me. Ningxi, he hasn't taken good care of you. You've lost weight. Seeing the tension between the two, the surrounding executives quickly scattered. The comments said, how can this guy be so brazenly lying? The female lead has obviously gained weight. The male lead is the type who is fierce but not verbose, while the second male lead is all talk. The male lead is so angry now, but doesn't know what to say to infuriate the second male lead even more. I hid behind Pei Wang. Husband, say something. This gave Pei Wang the courage. Like a small dog that had the backing of its owner, he boldly said, my wife told you to scram, didn't you hear? Fu Tan, with a dark look in his eyes, left our line of sight. I asked Pei Wang, wasn't Fu Tan supposed to be locked up in the villa? Why did he suddenly appear here? Pei Wang shook his head. I haven't really been keeping an eye on Fu Tan these last few days, and the people guarding him haven't sent any updates. It seems now that Fu Tan has bribed those people. He's not as simple as we imagined. As the dinner was about to end, I received a message on my phone. Xiaoxi, I prepared a big surprise for you tonight. It was from an unknown number. A shiver ran through me. I had pushed Pei Wang to discuss a partnership. Somehow, my head started to feel heavy and foggy. Before my consciousness faded, I fell into someone's arms. When I opened my eyes again, I was in a pitch-dark basement. Pei Wang, is it you? Instinctively, I felt that this was something Pei Wang would do. It wasn't the main guy, it was the second male lead. He drugged your drink when you weren't paying attention. Why can't the second male lead stop breaking up the main couple? Can't they just keep being sweet together? I frantically read these comments. Fu Tan, come out here. A light chuckle echoed from the doorway. Fu Tan stood there, dressed in a black turtleneck and gold-rimmed glasses, exuding an air of refined elegance. I had once complimented him on how good he looked in such outfits. Fu Tan smiled lightly at me. Xiaoxi, it's been a long time since I've seen you angry. The comments continued. Stay away from the female lead, this time it's not just scaring yourself. The second male lead is a pure yandere and a freak. The main guy is going crazy right now. Second male lead, second male lead, second male lead. Fu Tan frowned and clicked his tongue lightly. These comments are really annoying. I was shocked. Could Fu Tan see the comments too? Fu Tan walked over and embraced me. Xiaoxi, I know you have many questions. I'll answer them slowly. After all, I spoil you. This reminded me of our childhood when we played house. He was the father, I was the mother, and our friends were the children. I would use green, leafy mud as herbal medicine, applying it to his hand while playing doctor. He helped me with homework and writing reflections. He embraced it all and would say, who else but me to spoil you? I looked at him in fear. Since when can you see the comments? He nuzzled my neck with his head. It was around the time those comments said that if I loved you, I should elope with you before you marry someone else. I rebuked him. You never loved me. Back then, my father handed me over to Pei Wang, a stranger, while you locked yourself in your studio to escape reality. They're not wrong. You are a cowardly loser. Yes, I am a loser. If I weren't such a cowardly loser, I would have taken you away before you fell in love with Pei Wang. I said tremblingly. You're terrifying. Unexpectedly, Fu Tan laughed. Do you find me terrifying? But isn't it Pei Wang whom you like, who is just as terrifying? I was horrified by Fu Tan, and tears began to fall. Fu Tan wiped my tears and continued, if you want to talk about terrifying, Pei Wang is the most terrifying. Have you ever wondered where your ex-boyfriends went after you got married? Mental asylums, dark mines. Fu Tan sickeningly stroked my hair. I know exactly what Pei Wang is thinking. Why should those people be able to hug you, kiss you, and enjoy your beauty? So when he locked me in his villa, I was actually happy. I had you before he did. I was loved by you before he was. I struggled frantically in his arms. Fu Tan held me even tighter. He almost cruelly said, Ningxi, I won't let you go again. I was too gentle before. I should be a madman like Pei Wang. Ningxi, it's do or die between us. Fu Tan has lost his mind. He's not like Pei Wang. Pei Wang loves me and can't bear to hurt me. But Fu Tan, that madman, will stop at nothing when it comes to me. I decided to use a softer approach. Fu Tan, we grew up together. Don't be so harsh on me. I'll divorce Pei Wang. By acting like this, aren't you just being the homewrecker? After a long silence, the live comments started popping up. It looks like the heroine still loves the second male lead. Their childhood friendship is stronger than anything. Love it. The heroine and the second male lead are truly meant for each other. I hope he can be with her. Fu Tan saw these comments too. He quietly repeated the words from the comments, childhood friends. A bond stronger than gold. Just when I thought the comments had calmed him down, he suddenly burst into laughter, waving his arms wildly as if to chase away the words. You're all lying to me. Fu Tan embraced me wildly, as if trying to merge me into his very flesh. I broke down crying, struggling frantically. The iron door of the basement crashed down with a loud bang. A figure appeared against the light, like a warrior descending from the heavens, kicking Fu Tan against the wall. Fu Tan curled up on the ground, spat out a few blood-stained teeth. Before he passed out, he muttered, I'm not a coward. Ningxi and I are the perfect match. I sat in Pei Wang's car, feeling wronged. Why did you only come to find me now? Pei Wang's eyes were red with blood vessels. When you disappeared, you left me a breakup note, remembering how kind you'd been to me, your smiles. I thought you were just flattering me, making me lower my guard. I thought you had abandoned me. The comments said, the heroine shouldn't misunderstand the male lead. He slit his wrists after the second male lead kidnapped you. On the brink of death, he felt you crying and immediately fought to live. The male lead hasn't even bandaged his wrists, and here you are stabbing him in the heart again. Only then did I notice. Pei Wang's wrists were covered with crisscross scars. I remembered a past life. He lay in the bathtub, cold and stiff, lifeless, eventually turning into a pile of cold ashes. I covered my mouth, holding back tears. Pei Wang held me, his tone gentle. Thank you, Ningxi. Thank you for not abandoning me. Outside the car window, the bleak landscape swiftly receded. Pei Wang and I embraced in the car. We were slowly moving toward a future full of blossoming flowers. I need her to tell me herself that she hates me and doesn't want me. Only then would I willingly die. Today, my illness flared up again. But I dare not tell Ningxi. When I'm sick, I become like a wild beast unaware of hunger or thirst. I suppressed my filthy thoughts. Taking advantage of Ningxi's deep sleep, I quietly climbed into bed. Fortunately, I could see Ningxi, I could smell her scent. In the 3rd year of marriage to my wife, we held a belated wedding ceremony. It was the same church and the same stodgy priest as before, but this time, there were flowers, guests, vows of everlasting fidelity, and my Ningxi, who loves me. Ah, I am the happiest man in the world. Today is the end of the world. Ningxi caught me holding her clothes. She slapped me, calling me disgusting. Sigh, I am a despicable dog. I hope in my next life, Ningxi won't find me disgusting. I hope in my next life, when I'm afflicted, she will hold me, kiss me. Ningxi, goodbye.